Speaking of stimulants, as promised last week, I got my first book report on What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO by MyPillow guy, Mike Lindell. So I have...
How dare you give this person money?
I didn't. Shout out to Hobo Eddie. Hobo Eddie bought this for me for my birthday, so I can be morally clear of giving this guy money, and I do appreciate
There's
it.
some sick holograms on the cover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the back, too.
Yeah,
He's like, he's a baby, then he goes to a crack addict.
No, on the back,
He's a crack addict
No,
on the back.
it's worse. He goes from a baby to a Trump rally on the back.
Yeah.
But then on the front, yeah, he's just his smiley, weird fucking face. And so, there are 44 chapters in this book. So I read the first 11. I know this book is going to turn evil and Jesus-y, but the first 11 chapters of this book are just the biggest fuck up in the entire world, giving just blow-by-blow accounts of his most dumbass moments. I was wrapped because I made this commitment last week. I was like, I'm going to read this fucking book. It's been sitting on my desk. I've been too busy to do it, but I'm going to read the book and honor Hobo Eddie for giving me such a great birthday present and to share it with the people listening to the show. But I was kind of dreading it. And then fucking the prologue of this book, he's on a flight to Mexico, fiending for coke. This is the prologue.
He couldn't just get it.
We've all been there.
Well, no. He's been to Mexico several times at this point, and he is meeting up with a guy named the Greek. And on his previous, again, all
Russell
of
Brand?
this is the fucking MyPillow guy, the fucking big dumb idiot that you see on TV. He, the previous summer, said that, and this is a quote, "I'd blundered into a situation that pitted rival drug dealers against each other, and I barely escaped with my life. The Greek came out on top in that situation." And he doesn't elaborate, so he's just gone into some cartel crazy
He
shit.
started a drug war.
He started a drug war in Mexico.
That's how you know he's a fucking liar. Nothing in this book is true.
Yeah, that sounds like
This
absolute.
dude would be a
So,
fucking
The
have
Greek. There's no drug dealers
his
called a Greek.
tongue shoved up his own ass.
That's not a real
Well-
name for a drug dealer. They're called like the Bat. They're called the Greek.
Old Chapo.
There's no Mexicans called the Greek.
Well, there's a
man.
there's a the famous Spanish painter El Greco, which means the Greek. So
Okay,
they
so
exist.
you win then.
He's famous.
I guess
you know,
win
Chris.
then.
You know that.
I guess
famous
Rivers wins
guy.
then because there's a painter called El Greco. He's the Greek. Okay, everything he said is true.
But yeah, so he had started a drug war down there, and now because El Greco came out on top in that situation, he is now going to give Mike Lindell an unlimited amount of cocaine. And so Mike Lindell's on a plane with his family.
Because he like beat him in arm wrestling or something. Is like, you get all the cocaine in this house.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think it sounds like some people were taken care of because of the actions
Mike
of
Lindell
Mike
killed
Lindell.
people?
No, I think he started a war between two rival
Probably
gangs.
set somebody up.
Yeah,
to
he
get
like set,
killed.
yeah, probably like ratted someone out or set someone up. But anyway, the point is like he's a marked man in Mexico, but also he's about to get a bunch of coke, and he's on vacation with his entire family during all of
We've
this.
all been there, yeah.
And the Greek doesn't give him as much coke as he thought, and so he ends up getting what he calls teeners, which are bags that have less than.
How much is what he wanted?
yeah. No, I mean, he wanted all of the coke in Mexico, but he got a couple of bags called teeners.
Just one truck full.
a 16th of a gram.
Yes,
Yeah, just a little bit.
Was he a dealer?
No, he was just a heavy user. He just loved it, and he had a bunch of money. So
Was
he's
he doing the pillow thing?
not at this point.
What kind of money
I don't
where did he
think.
get the money?
I'm gonna get into it. He
Okay.
has several business endeavors, but at that point, so he barely escapes with his life in Mexico because he runs out of coke. He has misplaced a teener, a little baggie, and he doesn't know where it is. And he goes out onto the streets at like 2 a.m. with no one else on the street except for like 5 sketchy dudes who end up being like, yeah, we'll get you some coke. Just wait right here. And then they slowly start to recognize him as the guy who started all the shit the previous year. Mm-hmm. And they think he's like an informant, and he, almost dies and gets away somehow. That's the prologue of the book. The first book is called Cocaine, Minnesota, USA, 1990 to 1999. where he owns a bar called Schmitty's, which sounds like the craziest bar ever, where basically he would just let them do construction on the bar. Like if he thought the ceiling needed redoing, he would just let the patrons grab broomsticks and smash the ceiling tiles and shit.
Was he fucking Steve-O?
I mean, kind of. Yes. Well, he even talks about in his childhood, like he jumped out of a moving bus into a snowdrift because
so
he is exactly
he just wants
Steve-O.
attention
He
really
is.
bad.
There's, this type
An
of
adrenaline junkie, just like what we all became after drinking. that.
Hell yeah. Oh, I'm riding the wave right now, brother.
You're sweating. He's fucking sweat. I almost just took a picture of him from the side, but I was like, I don't know. I don't know if we need that in the world.
But yeah, you're right. There is like a divergent path where he went one way and then, the cast of Jackass went the other. But he always
He
considered...
was ahead of his time.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
And he talks about it. Schmitty's at one point, he loves the Blues Brothers, and so him and this other guy wanted to for Halloween. And weirdly, and again, this book was written in 2019, so way before COVID. He was like, Halloween. I always hated Halloween because everybody's wearing a mask. And I was like, well, that's funny. That
Shit makes you paranoid.
Yeah. Yeah. So he talks about it. He's like, you don't know who anyone is. I don't like it. So for his Halloween, him and his buddy were going to be Jake and Elwood. And they wanted to recreate the scene where they're at Bob's Country Bunker. They're doing rawhide and the guys are throwing the beer bottles at the chicken wire. So they rig up that thing to happen, I guess. And he says, like, years later, some lady saw him at the airport and was like, you threw the best party I ever went to, Mike. So his mother just one day they're living in a nice suburban home, and then his mother just is like, get in the car, and all the kids have to get in the car, and then they move 2 hours away to a trailer park across the street from a pickle factory.
I bet that smells good. Just vinegar all day long.
Yeah. His mind got pickled there. I think that's what happened.
I think that happened way before this.
Yeah. But yeah, as I mentioned, he jumps out of a moving bus, a school bus, because apparently there were bullies that were like daring him to, and he was like, "Okay, I'll do it," and then he did it. And, and lived.
I think Sam's right about the attention. People just obviously he needs a huge amount of attention.
He said that years later he allowed the kids to bury him up to his neck in sand in the trailer park, and he was like, I could get out of it, no problem. And then
he just wanted to be liked so bad.
Yeah. Well, aren't we all doing this? Aren't we all burying ourselves in sand on stage up there? Just come on, look at me.
So this guy's like pretty much just doing a bunch of basic shit that he's like excited about. Like Blues Brothers, fucking jumping out of school buses.
At the beginning, sure.
This is all like idiot. Anybody does this.
Yeah.
This is all normal bullshit.
Yes, yeah.
And I like cocaine, and I had a bar where I let people wreck the ceiling. Fuck you.
He said at one point they let him.
Fuck you. What are you, a poet? You think you're a poet because of that junk? That's just standard issue redneck shit.
Yes, 100%. This is like, your buddy Daryl.
This biography of Mike Lindell has made me even angrier at him than I was before.
I know.
Because he's like, thinks he's special for doing a bunch of stuff that anybody does.
Yeah.
Like going to Mexico. Oh, I went to Mexico. And then he made a bunch of shit like people make up because he heard it in an Eagles song or something. Like, oh, this is the Greek. Like in the second verse of Peaceful, Easy Feeling.
Life of the Fast Lane.
Yeah, he's a fucking... This is all a pack of lies.
Oh, of course.
And they're not even made up well.
Of course.
I jumped out of a bus. Fuck off.
Oh, you started a drug war.
I jumped out of a bus because the bullies told me to do it.
Felt safe.
So did everybody,
later.
you dummy.
He does say at one
We
point.
still want him to do that. Does he know that he could jump off the bus again?
He does say at one point that he smashed out the big screen TV in the back of his bar and then got inside of it, like the broken pieces, and sung karaoke.
Standard moron.
Well, no, that's a rock star.
No, that's pretty cool.
right there. That's
pretty cool.
Well, he's been trying to build his own legend, so to speak.
Yeah.
For
one time I pissed on my own couch.
Twice in a week.
Boy, I'm pretty much like an action hero or something.
One time I drank a glass of diarrhea.
Oh my God, I was reading this book and I just started tearing it up while I was reading it.
I'm crazy.
It definitely reeks.
I'm
of
interesting. I'm so interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It reeks of like this is the person I think I want to be.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just do the stupidest shit and hope it gets a good reaction.
I'm getting so mad. I think it's because of that fucking shit we drank. I'm way too mad. I'm so mad at Mike Lindell. And I'm actually mad at you, Rivers, for talking about him. That's what's happening to me over here. Sorry.
He got into gambling via a 20-hour game of Monopoly, in which they started betting real money, I guess, on it.
Shit. What a wild man.
I know, right? It's like the most
My
Midwestern.
aunt does that shit.
And he got into alcohol via peppermint schnapps, which that's a lot of us here.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. You were in high school.
Oh, another thing I did that was insane is I used to smoke cigarettes, but nobody knew.
Through my asshole, and I did it in front of a bunch of guys, and they all laughed.
My mom didn't know I did it. That's crazy.
One time, my friends tried to milk me, and and it was really funny, and everyone loved me then.
I sniff my own shit.
I wiped my ass on my friend's T-shirt, and it was really funny.
I love this description of the patrons of his bar. Most of the regulars had grown up together in Victoria. Skelly, Petey, Pokey, Flyman, Mohawk, Sibby, Toad, and Tom.
Just made up.
Yeah.
Just made up.
Saskatchewan. This is in Canada.
This is in Minnesota. Yeah, it's in Victoria, Minnesota.
Okay.
One of the reasons I wanted to read this is because there was an advertisement where he would detail his 14 near-death experiences. His first near-death experience, he crashed his dad's pickup truck into a tree and was thrown 25 feet from the truck. But here's the thing, and he keeps like referencing this, but it doesn't state it outright, that his life is full of miracles. They can't figure out how he got out of the truck when the truck crashed. They found him on the ground, but the windshield's not broken. He wouldn't have fallen out the open window. Like he's just
So it's
on
just
the ground.
another lie.
Yeah, pretty much. Or it was angels, Sam. It might have been angels. He walks out of the hospital unscathed.
That's the kind of thing you do when you're blackout drunk and you crash your dad's car.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I was thrown from the car. I don't remember what happened.
Well,
They're like, there's no evidence that I don't know. This is Victoria, Minnesota. Everyone here is done.
it is all like made up like a preacher's homily to build towards the end where it's like, and then I found Jesus.
I know.
So,
Well,
like,
that's-
it can be all made up until that point.
Yeah, well, that's why I said, like, reading the first 11 chapters is, like, just great. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, give it to me. Because, you know, when somebody's lying at you, you never stop them. You're just like, dude, keep going. This is hilarious. Like, I love this shit.
You got some notes.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
there,
So I definitely got some notes. He quits college due to the Iranian hostage crisis. So
As many people did.
he said that he was like, I just felt like the world was going to end, and I wanted to go run a casino out of my trailer, which he then proceeds to start
It was a
running.
choice.
It was a choice.
It was not I did not drop out of college. Okay, I wanted to start a casino. It was a choice
For political reasons.
for political reasons. I did not fail out of college.
He and his friend Kenny are working at a movie theater also, and they climbed to the top of the drive-in movie screen and mooned everybody. So it was pretty
guy's crazy.
It's pretty scandalous.
Damn.
It's pretty scandalous.
Crazy American, like American graffiti.
Yeah. He's running a casino out of his trailer and also making big bets on NFL games. Over the course of one weekend, he gets $12,000 in the hole and has to hide from bookies. And the fun part with this is because, you know, obviously a lot of this is probably bullshit, but he does have receipts in the pictures section, which is extensive, where he has the actual Hardee's bag which is funny considering what happened to him at Hardee's last week, that was left by
Last week.
Yeah, he got his cell phone taken at the Hardee's by the FBI. While he was,
my.
and we found out what kind of burger, by the way. Mushroom Swiss is what he ordered.
He thinks he's fancy.
Such
Yeah.
a fucking basic.
But he has included a scan of the Hardee's bag that so he's hiding in a closet inside his trailer while the bookies are outside and they're going to kill him. And so they write on a Hardee's bag Mike came to get our money. Book was with me. Physical force may be needed. Call me.
Yeah,
So-
that's a genuine artifact. There's no
Yeah,
way
you can't
that he
fake that.
can't fake that.
Hey, maybe not. He
The ghostwriter of this book must have been like
the ghostwriter's good, man.
his eyebrows must have been arched the entire time as he was as this guy was psycho was going back and forth lying to him, dictating his life. He's like, all right.
Whoever ghost wrote this fucking killed it because it's a nonlinear narrative. Like he's just giving you flashes. Like there's different. He jumps around in the narrative. It's more impressive than it has any right to be. But he starts running food trucks. That's his first big hustle. In addition to losing shitloads of money on gambling, he's
Wait, he started running food trucks?
yeah, that was his,
What year was this?
like 1990.
Because those weren't popular in the 90s.
Well,
they almost didn't exist.
Yeah, he actually went to California and got the idea. He was like, "Oh, this is actually a good idea," and started giving away free sandwiches to factories for the first week, so they would hire him to be their food truck guy. So he's doing that, and then also just doing unbelievable amounts of cocaine.
Odds?
Yeah, what are the odds? He ends up going to stealing checks from his friend and going to Vegas with that money and then losing all of that money. And
I want to beat this guy's ass so bad. Everything he does is something he saw in a movie, or it's like he doesn't. He has to be a cocaine addict to start a food truck. People do that. Fucking all his ideas are like fucking so stupid and regular. Why do you have to be a cocaine addict to start a food truck?
I think it's just
Like
helped.
fucking Christian moms start food trucks,
Right, yeah. Well,
I did so much coke, I started an Etsy shop.
well, that's the thing. Is like he
Like, this guy's adventures suck.
he is the classic model of the we need to start a restaurant coke guy. Like
I hate this guy so much.
but yeah, he's running from all these bookies, and he basically needs to get away from them. He doesn't have money, so his plan is he decides I'm gonna go to jail, so they think that I went to jail trying to pay them back, so this way they won't hurt my
He
family.
saw that in a movie, definitely.
Which is a terrible idea. So he decides to rob a gas station, and when he gets there, he finds that the door has been unlocked. So he just walks in and starts taking checks out of the register and then leads the police on a high-speed chase.
Why? How did he get caught if there's no one there?
Because he was drunk and he almost hit a cop car as he was exiting the gas station.
Okay.
And so then they found the checks, and he goes to jail, goes to rehab. Then later they flash over to he's in Minneapolis, and he's got his friends Chris and Dean, and they've come from a bar called Moby Dick's in a part of town that was a bad part of town, and now they're at Burger King. And apparently Chris called some
This guy
guy
loves fast food.
I know he
so
does.
much.
He loves it so much. His friend Chris calls somebody the N-word, and then the next thing he knows,
Chris, come on.
And I'm quoting from the book here: 25 black guys ambushing Chris and Dean in the parking lot. Which I'm like, you can't ambush someone with 25 guys. That is just straightforward.
Sounds like he called.
It's also
20.
not an ambush if you call someone the N-word.
yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. Yeah,
It
it's
sounds
fully
like
deserved.
He called 24 black guys the N-word.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
got what was coming to him.
But Dean gets kicked so hard in the balls that they have to take one of his balls, and then Dean kills himself.
Wait, take one of his balls out? This is the only interesting thing.
I know, right? Yeah, I'm telling you.
This is a good lie.
And that's about another guy. I'd rather hear. I wish that other guy was about. This book was about the guy with one ball.
Dean.
Racist one nut Chris.
Why? Yeah. I mean, what happened to that guy?
He blew his head off because he had one nut.
He got kicked in the ball so hard he died. Basically,
He got kicked in the ball so hard that they took one of his nuts, and then he killed
committed
himself.
suicide.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
And then and then he leaves us on a. So for
the best story of that book.
for the end.
The guy got kicked in the nuts, already died. And then they're like, look at him, and he's like sweating, and his adrenaline's running, and they're like, the guy he
It was one of
died.
those
Well, he
black-
killed
it was
himself.
one of those black guy nut kicking ambushes.
I know. So he's like, and then they cap this thing off. The last chapter of book 1, chapter 11. The name of the chapter is Coke times 10, and that is when he finds his true passion, his true calling, Lady Crack.
He calls it Lady Crack.
That's what I'm calling it. But he he calls it lady. I think he does call cocaine like his like white lady at some point. Like
People call it white
what a
girl.
hack.
no, but like he calls it like his white.
He's
He's
a
like
hack.
my white
Everything
lady.
he does is hack. Even his drug use is hack.
Yeah.
But he has a crazy weekend in 1999 where the Viking
Shoplifted a toothbrush.
Me and Bonehead were shit-faced in a Walgreens.
We barely got away. It was crazy.
The security guard was like, "Hey, wait!" and we ran.
Some guy pulled out a crossbow, shot him in the pancreas. He died. The Ghost Rider's like, fucking Jesus. Like 2 more paragraphs.
No, the Vikings lose the Super Bowl, which is just devastating to the entire community. Dean kills himself that weekend because of the balls thing, and then
It's too much Daniel.
and then
I can't come.
I wonder if the Vikings
Jerked off and nothing but dust comes out.
and the Vikings lost.
Yeah, do you think if the Vikings would have won, he would still be alive?
I mean,
right now?
you never know.
He's like, well,
I only
I got one nut, but
my
I'm gonna need
team
this
won.
If I had 2 balls, the Vikings would have won.
That was my lucky ball. So Mike and his friend Skelly are so sad about Dean. They lock the door of the bar and they drink and do coke all night. And then when they wake up on the floor, the janitors have swept and mopped around their bodies.
Oh yeah, the thing is when you do a bunch of coke all night, you sleep.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know how you end up sleeping by the end of the night.
That's a good point because if you do enough coke, you don't go to sleep for like a bunch of days.
Yeah. Well, they are at a bar, so he does have unlimited access to downers. So I will
All
say
right,
that,
I know
yeah.
this guy's your friend, Rivers.
No. Just, hey,
He asked for this book for his birthday.
I was going to say, like, as of chapter 11, I'm still I'm not riding with Mike. I know how the story ends, but pretty fucking entertaining for me. I'm just going to say, call me milquetoast.
Wait
what
till
have
you
you,
read
but-
my biography.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I feel like these type of stories honestly encourage people to engage in debaucherous behavior.
Oh, yeah. Well,
because
look how good it turned out for him.
Exactly. That's what people go. They go, "Oh my God, he's rich now. That means I can also smoke crack and then still be rich one day."
Yeah.
It's like, nah.
And I can kick someone's ball off. It doesn't matter.
So shout out to Hobo Eddie. That's part 1. Part 2 next week of What Are the Odds with Michael Lindell.
Man, what are the odds?
What are the fucking odds? So far, only one near-death experience, although he does make reference to his other near-death experiences where he talks about having a motorcycle wreck.
You were saying earlier he does a Tarantino-esque switches back and forth in time.
Yes, yeah, because there's flashes,
I'm sure he like fancies himself like this master storyteller or some bullshit like that.
Yeah, well, the Ghost Rider is a master storyteller. It's plain English. It's nothing too. It's pretty straightforward, but it's compelling. I never stopped. I never felt. I read this in just like 11 chapters. Boom, one sitting, easy peasy. And I was like fully bracing for Jesus-y stuff, and so far nothing. Just beautiful.
You got to find better stuff to do with your time.
Hey, I got nothing. I got
Guys,
nothing but
can
time.
we start a jiu-jitsu house to give Rivers something better to do?
I did want to share one more passage, and this is where he talks about his 5-year class reunion, which that in of itself is kind of weird. But he says, a series of near misses followed that accident so many times that I began to feel invincible. I fell into a lake and was trapped under a sheet of ice. I was nearly electrocuted by a bolt of power so massive it shut down half the town. I bought a motorcycle and wrecked it twice. The second time was on the way to a skydiving lesson, during which I smashed into the ground at 60 miles per hour because my chute didn't fully open. Yes, I actually crashed my motorcycle and survived a skydiving accident on the same day, and I walked away. Year after year, things like this kept happening to me. Over and over, I asked myself, what are the odds? You did it.
The odds are pretty low because these are all made up stories.
Yeah.
I like he says a bolt of electricity. Like, it's not lightning. It's just somehow.
It's crazy.
That's
I wrote
the Ghost Rider adding.
Yeah. Somehow, actually, I fought Thor, and he hit me with a lightning bolt. So crazy.
The year was 1969. I had just written Stairway to Heaven, was about to hand it off to Robert Plant, and then I fell out of an airplane and
He was hooked into the power grid.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean it knocked out? He himself got hit by a bolt of lightning and it put the power out.
This is another like blackout drunk. You crash your car into like a power breaker on the side of the road. Like, damn, that lightning was crazy. It's like it's not even raining. Yeah, but the heat lightning.
I mean, it was like a he got superpowers from it. Like essentially as a Stranger Things-esque kind of thing happened to him. You know, the power went out in the entire town. Then he woke up and he had the power to see through the bullshit.
Yeah,
stuff like
hell
that.
yeah. Well,
what are the odds?
What are the odds? Well, and he's cursed with good luck. In some ways, I think, because he's at the point now where and also the thing that he said about the encounter with the FBI at Hardee's now makes a lot of sense. It's what I speculated about last week, which was he said to the guy in the car with him when the FBI pulled up to take his phone at Hardee's, he said, "This is either some really bad guys or the FBI." And I was like, oh, he thinks it's his bookies like still coming for him from the Vegas thing.
If that's to be believed.
Yeah. Well, that's what he claims.
Or he thinks there's hits out on him because he's way more important in his own head.
That's right. He can't stop.
Attention-grabbing thing.
Can't stop telling the truth.
The thing about him is he does not seem sober to me.
No, you're right.
That's the thing is like he does not act like, I have a fair amount of experience with sober people. He does not act like one.
Yeah.
He acts like a person who's on drugs.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't even necessarily believe. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is the matter with that guy.
Yeah. Well,
but whatever it is, it's a common fucking
He's switched to like prescription uppers,
narcissism and fucking
cocaine.
Well, I will say like I have a limited case study with this, but I definitely know people that have had long histories with like drug abuse that then became hardcore Christians.
Yeah.
And there's that line in that Jason Isbell song where he says, "Is your brother on a church kick? Seems like just another type of dope hit." And you're like, yeah, that's that can happen. Like there's
like he broke sobriety by being fully into Jesus.
Yeah, like instead of doing drugs, it's just so into
I mean or he's a pathological liar, and he's all. I mean, there's got to be some sort of stimulant that is like.
Yeah, I mean, probably doing the Adderall, doing the safe meth.
Yeah.
But either way, entertaining book, Mike. First 11 chapters. I wasn't bored. I'll say that. I was not bored.
Are you trying to sell his book?
No, I think he's
right now.
No. What I am saying is that when this is all said and done, I'm going to send this book to one lucky winner along with the T-shirts, and I'm going to make it a whole thing. So I'm going to pass this on. I'm going to pass this.
You should leave it at one of the free libraries.
Dude,
just on the side of the road.
How many free libraries in Minneapolis are stocked with this book? Because he couldn't give these away. Like he was at the Cyber Symposium. They talked about how there was just hundreds of boxes of this book that he was like trying to hand to people on their way out who were pissed that he didn't produce evidence that the election was stolen. So I guarantee you, every free library in Minneapolis is stocked.
Everybody orders too much merch.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Everyone's got boxfuls of it in their closet.
Everybody has high hopes.
Hey, This is chapter 12 through 22. And this one, the first installment last week, it was basically just a list of fuck ups. Like imagine your dumbest friend wrote a book about all the times he fucked up and then threw in a bunch of incredible lies. And it's one of those things where like if somebody's just lying at you, you're like, keep going. At least I am. That's how I'm wired. I'm like, I want to hear it all. Like this is obviously bullshit. It'll stop the train if I stop you. So keep going. And I gotta say, this one is mostly concerned with because where we last left off, Mike had gone from what he calls soft coke to crack. So
he's on the hard now.
Yeah. So he had just smoked his first crack rock at the end of chapter 11. And then in chapter 12, this is the crack year. So we're talking like the year 2000 through about 2006. And it is also the card counting years, and it is also the MyPillow invention is kind of what comes at the very end.
Of course, he says you can count cards.
Yes.
Yeah. What a piece of shit.
He's almost died multiple times.
Yeah. Oh, he's had the mob leave a Hardee's bag with a threatening note at his house. He's had all of these things.
He and Dana White have been thrown out of every Vegas casino. They don't let him go back.
When we last left off, he was owning a bar called Schmitty's in the middle of nowhere in Minnesota, and he starts losing his regulars to a competitor, and so he decides to take all of his points from gambling in Vegas and start taking his regulars to Vegas with him. And they are still abandoning him in droves, and he seems very mad about this. Fun detail, I had been reading the book, and then I was like, I can't read any more of this shit because so much of it was about card counting and like the strategies and shit. So I was like, all right, can I steal this audiobook from somewhere just so I can just sort of sit here and absorb the boring parts? And found the audiobook. It's free on his website. And so you can just download it as an MP3. So I was just sort of like glazing over as he starts talking about his card counting days. But apparently at one point he spent 40 days in Vegas, winning about $300 a day for 40 days straight. So very similar to Jesus, 40 days in the desert, which I feel like that couldn't be a coincidence.
And that's not that much money.
Yeah, it's really not.
It's a good, like, I'd love to make $300 a day, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to start a company, that doesn't add up. Unless he's doing that for a lot longer than 40 days.
Yeah.
Scraping away, tightening his belt.
Yeah, but one of the things he's pissed about is he started like a softball team for Schmitty's, and his competitor Floyd's, a lot of his regulars are joining their softball team. So he gets...
Oh, I can't believe people don't want to be around this
Everyone's
guy.
joined Gary's Old Town Tavern just to fuck him over.
But he gets pissed and puts a sign on the front door of the bar that says, "For all my friends and family and bartenders who are on the Floyd's team, I would prefer if you didn't come in here till the season is over." So he like
Wow,
bans...
friends and family are abandoning him.
He bans...
It's like, Chet Hanks knows all about this.
But imagine like your family, you're like someone in your family has a bar or whatever, and you
And
start
a
playing for
softball
the
team.
rival softball team. Like you
like
don't
a
even
movie.
work at the bar.
This is another one of his lies.
If this were a movie,
sure.
I'd be like, what the hell is going on? Why would they... Like, you could just stop being on his softball team, but they're like, no, we really want to stick it to this guy.
Right.
I really hate my uncle.
And also, why does he know what his patrons are doing? Like, I understand there are like barflies that you would get to know, but like generally you're like, how is he sitting there like, they're all at Floyd's, I know it.
Yeah.
Well, they're playing for the softball team. They played against the championship.
I guess that's true.
He shows up and there's 0 people on his team.
He has to forfeit
and they
every game.
have
He's
like 30 players.
Mom, what are you doing? She's like, I'm playing third base for Chet. Floyd made a better deal. What can I say?
He's hanging out. Handing out
better
the
son.
high profit contracts over here.
But he is, even as of the writing of this book, still seemingly mad. It was like, I took you guys to Vegas and you still joined his team.
Look, I mean, I think he probably deserved whatever he got here, but I'd be mad too. What I'm saying, this is a crazy thing for our family to do.
Yeah, I mean, none of this happened.
Oh, right. Fuck. Why am I getting so invested? This is a story that makes no sense because it's not true.
This is one of those classic everyone turned their back on me,
Yes.
but I was right.
Yeah.
Things.
Yeah.
At the very least, he's leaving out
it's
huge details where they're like so spiteful of him.
Yeah, well, it's back to the Chet Hanks thing. It's not that everyone on the entire earth is wrong
They
about
all just
me.
think you're an asshole. They're haters. Mom's a hater, dad's a hater.
I'm going to smoke twice as much crack just to show you.
He has an incredible quote here. Crack was incompatible with running a bar. Crack requires secrecy and cunning.
He's like bragging about being a crack addict.
Yeah, he's still on crack. He's still fucking on
He's
crack.
like, hey, I'm against it or whatever, but it did take a lot of cunning for me.
It's like the only smart
Only a big
guys.
strong man could have done as much crack as me.
Like, I guess he's right if you have money and a house to go to, but I would not describe most crackheads as secret and cunning.
It's impressive
No.
to be
Pretty obvious.
functional, I guess, on crack, but it's not like, don't brag about it.
Yeah. At one point, he gets called by a family friend to stage an intervention for another guy.
That's how secret he is with
Yeah,
his crack
well,
use.
well, that's
he
the thing.
only does it in a closet with no one else around.
Well, no, he
Cunning.
he
Yeah.
says in it, he's like, and they knew I was an addict, and they still invited me to do it just because I was the best at convincing. And like,
Oh
was the
man, this
best
guy!
at convincing.
Everything he says is a lie. God damn!
But it's because somehow he did get to where he is. But he's also very clearly not the best at convincing.
no,
He's tried convincing a lot of people of some things recently.
Yes.
And everyone was like, hell no. You're the pillow guy.
you're insane.
You must have seen how bad these other guys were at convincing.
I have to imagine this guy's just crushing it at convincing his whole life, and then all of a sudden people are like, you're a crazy lunatic, and he's like, what? He's built an empire on bullshit, and he's like, this works for me, and then all of a sudden people are like, no, and he's like, what? Wait, no.
Yeah. Well,
You sound like my mom joining Floyd's softball team.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He is the American archetype of that like huckster bullshit guy, but eventually the tread goes off those tires and people are like, oh yeah, you're fucking nuts.
The car only rides for so long.
Yeah. But yeah, the guy that he staged an intervention on did go to rehab, but then later, and I'm quoting from the book, he came out as a full-blown crack addict with nothing left to lose. And I was like, just, I'm coming out. And he's just fucking smoking out of a light bulb. He talks about the practice of what he calls farming, which is where you're going through the fibers of your carpet looking for remnants of crack. So he was on his hands and knees. He said he was like going back and forth like he was like a plow or something in a field looking for crack nuggets.
That's believable.
That does sound like crackhead behavior.
It definitely.
But
definitely.
it's just so
and there's
sad.
and the thing is, there's not crack in the carpet. He smoked all the crack. He's hoping he's going to find a fucking morsel.
Well, we are, young Daniel Magden did smoke a dab off the floor.
That's true.
So
but
he was farming.
Yeah, that wasn't like carpet though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. So his friend Toad turned his house from across from the Dairy Queen into a crack house, and he lost his electricity, so he had extension cords running from the neighbor's house. And Mike asked him, "Where does it end, Toad?" And Toad says, "When it's gone, Mike."
All right.
He said he sounded defiant, desperate, and lost.
I will say the extension cord from your neighbor's house is pretty cunning.
And secret. No one notices that orange.
I don't know how they
cord.
didn't, but if they didn't, if he got away with that, honestly, shout out to Toad. If you're listening, that was pretty cool.
Toad, a guy who's definitely real.
And maybe dead if he is. Real or not, he's dead.
He says he learned card counting from a man named Vas Spanos, a stout, swarthy Greek, and he took his $900 9-month course.
This guy,
$100 a month. That's not that bad.
This guy he so badly wanted to be a screenwriter.
Yeah. It's like you've Catch Me If You Can. You ever seen that movie? You ever read the book? But the guy who wrote the book, turns out he didn't do any of that shit. So his only big con that he pretended to be a con man and conned everyone into believing he was a con man, and they got away with it and made a movie.
Oh, that fucking rules.
So I guess he is a good con man.
Mike bought 60 pigs, and the second, because he was trying to get into pig farming, because apparently the hog market was just on fire. He bought 60 pigs, the bottom fell out of the market, and he had what he described as a catastrophic loss in the pig farming, and he owed the bank $4,000 and a bookie $10,000. And I'm like, it seems like
I thought you were a great gambler.
Yeah.
Why are you going to bookie $10,000?
So that's a great point, and here's the thing. According to him, when it comes to card counting, he is able to beat the house by about a 1.5%
That's huge.
advantage.
I don't
right?
think
that's his claim. But when it comes to betting on sports,
he's a degenerate
he
gambler.
is the worst. So he lost $10,000 on 5 baseball games over a weekend.
I'll say this: I know that like professional poker players, a lot of them do bet on sports.
Yeah,
and they do end up, fucking up that way.
Yeah.
So sports betting is like considered the easiest type to
I think
get
a
into.
lot of people, like these guys are just really good at math or whatever, and then they, but they're like just in reading people and stuff. But then they like try to do sports. I think that's I've heard. I hear a lot of guys talk about having trouble getting money and borrowing from other poker players. Like, why would you do that? You just made $10 million And I think it's because they will also talk about anything they can gamble on. They just love gambling.
Are they gambling addicts? These professional gamblers?
Yeah, but they're just the ones that got away with it, But sometimes they don't. So I mean, this sounds almost relatable.
Yeah. Well, because what he talks about here is like if he's doing too well at a table, like the pit boss will come over and like move you along to other games and shit like that. And he even says at one point he's counting cards. I think he's at the Stardust, and he catches the dealer second dealing him, and he calls him out to the pit boss, and he's like, just check it out, the next card's going to be the Jack of Diamonds, and then he flips it, and it is. So now he's just outed himself as a card counter, and they pick him up physically and throw him out the doors onto the street of Las Vegas.
If I'm correct, and I may not be, you don't know the next card in card counting, right?
Well,
No.
They shuffle the cards. They're not ordered. You just know if the deck is hot, like if it has a lot of face cards in it.
yeah. Well, I
And
think
he's just like knows the Jack of Diamonds is next. They don't replay the cards in the same order the next time.
yeah. Well, that's what he claims.
And they use like 6 decks in a shoot, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't.
See, this is the
I don't
part.
like this guy.
Yeah. Well,
I think he might be lying, but no.
like I said, this is the part I was just kind of phased because I don't fucking because to me it's like the fun of Vegas, quote unquote. It's like, hey, you're gonna go there and do math and lose money. I'm like, both of those suck. I don't fucking do it. But
This is again at the point where, like Crofton was saying last time, he's making up all these lies to sound cool, but the lies he's saying aren't even cool.
that's the thing. All
Yeah,
of
I
them
don't like
involve
him at the
him.
end of it.
All of them involve him getting owned at the end of them. So that's why I think he thinks they're believable. Is he's just like, well, I didn't win.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
yeah.
That gives
This is like the point when you're talking to the crazy guy at the bar who's telling the lies, and you're like, oh, I want to hear more what this guy's saying. And then you get to this point, you're like, okay, I think I'm done listening to anything this guy has to say.
But yeah, he gets thrown out on the street, and they say, "Come back, and we'll kill you." So he doesn't go back to that hotel. He instead goes to another hotel where he starts playing slot machines, and he's done 2 pulls, and then there's a kid that walks in who's just turned 21 years old, and he's with his parents, and they're like, "Hey, can we get on that slot machine?" He's like, "Oh, sure." And the kid does a pull, and the kid wins $1.5 million. So if he had just pulled one more time, he would have been out of his
He's such a
financial
nice
troubles.
guy.
And he claims that the kid's name is Tommy Bananas.
Okay.
Yeah, of course it is.
So
I would also not want to tell this guy my real last name or first
I
name.
think you should drink beer while you read this book because it is just a guy at a bar telling you bullshit stories.
yeah, hell yeah.
And the beer helps in that case.
He loses all of his money on a riverboat in Kansas City, and then as he's driving back to Minnesota, he gets lost in like a sketchy neighborhood, and his camper shell falls off of the truck, and 2 guys come up with a gun, and they're gonna try to rob him. And he's like, "Guys, I've only got $6. I'll give you $3 each if you help me put my camper shell back on my truck." And they did.
Oh,
Isn't that crazy?
Wow,
And then
dude.
as
crazy.
and then as
You're such a convincing guy.
he's cunning and he's sneaky.
Secretive.
Yeah.
He had $8 actually.
well,
He's
but-
holding out with the robbers that are helping him out.
well, no, but then they like leave, and he yells at them. He's like, "Take your $6," and then they're like, "No," and then he goes, "Please do coke with me," and then they don't, and so then he has to drive back to Minnesota, having not done coke with cool robber teens.
What a fucking
he had to do all the coke
loser.
himself before he drove home. That sucks.
That's a crazy type of cokehead to be giving like free coke, and people are just like, hell no, dude.
I know.
Hell fucking no.
It's what it's like. They try to rob him. They end up feeling bad enough
Yeah.
for him to help him out. And then he tries to, as he's leaving, they're like, "Hey, stay and hang out." And they're like,
No.
"We just helped you. We don't want money. We don't want your coke. We just want to be away from you." At any cost. Please, we did everything you asked. Just stop talking to us.
He takes his children on a fishing trip with his friend Troy, and then another guy named Alex shows up and is like, "Hey, you guys want to do some crack?" And so he smokes crack in the woods, crouched down with these 2 guys while he watches his kids fish by themselves.
That's believable,
yeah,
actually.
sad time.
It's a real crackhead story.
Later,
Yeah, that's the only believable one. Yeah, I was high on crack around my kids.
The
Yeah,
only
okay,
crack
that
things
checks
the
out.
only thing I believe so far, he did crack around his kids. His friend did the extension cord thing. That's crackhead.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know much
All
about
his
crack.
friends abandoned him for different
And all his
softball
friends
teams.
fucking hate him. And he's cunning and sneaky. I believe that.
he's with his friend Gary looking for coke in the hard streets of Memphis, and they pick up a kid named Tony who's sitting on a pile of dirt. And
What a fucking terrible liar. What a just god awful.
there's
nowhere to sit except for this pile of dirt. It's just a pile of dirt
and
here.
it's 3 a.m. too, so you know.
I've sat in a pile of dirt.
at 3 a.m. though.
No, that's not dirt sitting hours.
That's dirt laying hours.
That's right.
Yeah, that dirt-
I go to sleep on a pile of dirt. At that point.
That dirt's cold at 3 a.m. You got to sit on it like
That's-
6 p.m. when the sun's going down. It's nice and warm dirt.
Yeah, or sun's coming up.
Yeah. They go find some other guy with what he describes hard eyes who gets in the car, and he has to talk him out of the car. They go to Tunica, Mississippi with $10,000, and then they end up just doing crack the whole time.
That sounds believable.
And then he keeps saying, "What are the odds?" At the end of every chapter. He gets pulled over by the cops with $8,000 cash, a burned spoon, and baking soda in his car at 11 a.m. in Memphis. And Tony, the guy from the dirt, gets him off the hook. He does some smooth talking to the cops, and they just let him go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It really seems like Mike, if all this stuff that he says is true, he doesn't deserve anything he's ever
no.
He's like, oh, I failed and lucked my way in. I tripped upwards until I was here.
He has to go to Hennepin County Jail because he had too many DUIs, and so he has to go to jail for 19 days.
Too many DUIs.
Yeah.
What's the number? I thought one was too many.
I think it's 9 or something
What?
like that. Yeah, he had a bunch. Well, he got a bunch of DUIs.
That's too many. You're right. That is too many DUIs.
The reason he got arrested is because he was like driving after they had canceled his license. They the state of Minnesota was like, you are never allowed to drive again. And he got pulled over
they just
again.
canceled it.
Yeah, like you were just not allowed. And so, but he does get work release, and because his work is at the bar, he just is chilling at the house with his kids, and his kids are like, hey, come play video games with us. He's like, I'll be right up. And then he smokes crack for 2 hours, fails a drug test, and has to go to jail.
Yeah, you know all the work release programs where you can work at a bar that you're the fucking boss of. God damn, that's the thing. He's on crack when he wrote this shit because these are lies so bad you would have to be intoxicated to even think it's believable.
The stories go from the guy at the end of the bar to just a guy on the street yelling at you. That you're like, okay, man, I helped you move your thing.
Well, I feel like that's coming in the next 2 sections when he gets fully into the Jesus thing. That's when it's going to be the guy screaming on the street.
He's going to be into Jesus?
Oh, hell yeah. He loved Jesus. But yeah, he does his sentence, goes back to Vegas. A pit boss insinuates that he's wearing a wire, so he takes off all of his clothes in the middle of the casino, and they're like, they don't even throw him out. They're just like, Mike, you're a crazy guy. And then he's like, I ended up becoming friends with that pit boss. His name is Mike Johnson. He's one of my closest friends.
His name is Gary Smith. He has the most generic name at all possible. You know, at first he thought I was an undercover cop, which many people have thought while interacting with
his fake names are either the most generic ever or like Tony Bananas. Or Tony. It's either just a word he thought of or the most generic name. I would like to stop and take a second to point out that you do a pretty good Michael Lindell impression.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you've clearly been working on it.
I spent a lot of time with the man this morning listening to his stupid voice as he says all this bullshit. But he ends up having to sell his bar because he owes, I think it's like $50,000 to a bookie named Ed, who he describes as a short Asian man with a long fuse. Which,
a long fuse.
Like, meaning this guy just keeps fucking up and Ed just keeps letting him. And you're like, dude, Ed, you got to kill this guy.
It's the kind of bookie for Mike Lindell, it sounds like.
Well, the old bookies would try to kill him, and Ed's just like, you know what, Mike, you're a good dude. And
He's
I'm like,
the bookie that,
and I'm just thinking, Ed, put a bullet in his head. He's fucking you over. Ed, you have to kill this guy at all costs. But yeah, he ends up having to sell the bar. So he has one last big blowout called the Masterpiece Weekend. And he describes setting off fireworks in his pockets.
That's cool.
Which I love. That's the craziest thing he could think of. What if I set off fireworks in my pockets?
He's like, what if I become like a jackass guy?
If I hurt myself, will you guys like me?
Nothing else has worked. No one's ever liked me.
I even tried to give them Coke.
That's a surefire way to make friends, by the way. It always works. You give drugs to people, they're like,
You're cool.
Someone tries to rob you legitimately. If you offer them drugs, they'd be like, okay, we can be friends. That story, I believe. Instead, it's the opposite. They just helped him like move or whatever it was, and then
one of the signature things he used to do at Schmitty's all the time, and he said he spent an incredible amount of money on this, was he did what he called Schmitty's Snow, which is not what you would assume based on the amount of coke he's doing. No, he would take hundreds of thousands of napkins and toss them into the fan, and then the napkins would go around the bar, and he was like, it's Schmitty's Snow, and then people
so
thought
he'd just get all fucked up and make a mess in his own bar.
Yeah.
This guy is Michael Scott on crack, basically. Like, he's got these just, he fancies himself a Willy Wonka type, but he's a fucking moron.
I'm sure the bartender's like, oh, good, the crackhead owner's in here throwing.
Does he mention that he's like, I had to go through a different bartender every month?
No, he was the bartender too. That's the thing.
That's another bullshit thing.
No, I bet after a while you couldn't find anyone else to become.
No, that's the thing. That is the thing I absolutely believe is that he was 100% the bartender the entire time. Because he loves attention. Like we've established, he jumped out of the bus,
he threw
into the snow, the whole thing.
Who's going to serve drinks when you're lighting off fucking black cats in your pocket.
in your pants. Yeah. But yeah, for Masterpiece Weekend, he got $2,000 in $1 bills, and he made green Schmitty's snow. He threw it up into the fans and just let everybody go farming for dollar bills.
So this was a planned weekend ahead of time. He's like, "This is my big blowout."
Yeah, he's selling the bar, so it's his big blowout.
Okay.
Yeah, what a fucking extravaganza.
Yep.
You'd have to be the most boring person on earth to fucking be like, wow, it'd be cool to go somewhere and be like, yeah, I got $20 because some crackhead was just throwing money in the air. But nothing else about it would be cool.
The weekend after he sells
Fun.
the weekend after he sells Schmitty's, and here we go with the real classic crackhead behavior. He wakes up in a fit and scrawls 6 pages of a plan that is called God Against Crack, and he ranks crack users on a scale of C1 through C5, and he declares that I have to wipe out crack addiction in the world.
Wait, why not just do 1 through 5 if you're gonna only have the C?
I think he's assigning judgment on others. He's like, oh, if you just started doing crack, you're C1. If you're fully gone like I am, you're C5.
C is for crack.
Crack 1, yeah, crack 1.
So
through
it's
crack
just
5.
1 through 5, but with crack.
Yes, with crack. He calls this his out-of-body crack essay. Because he says I wasn't even there, and then he says he hid
He's not good at coming up with phrases.
He hid the 4 pages behind a picture frame. He's like, and I forgot about those pages for 6 years. And you're like, and then he doesn't pay it off. It just moves on, so you know it's coming.
Just
later.
wait for chapter 23, baby.
Yeah, I know it's coming. Yeah, he gets a sketchy loan from a guy named Neff who drinks scotch and milk, and then Neff betrays him. He's like, hey, it was just a handshake deal. I don't have to give you this money. I don't have to get this money back at all. And he had put, I guess, the title of the bar that he had already sold because it was still in litigation or something, because he was trying to get a quick amount of money to go to Vegas with, and then Neff wouldn't give him the money back. Meanwhile, he has another frantic dream. And in this dream, he is running around screaming, "Where's my pillow? Where's my pillow?"
Oh, wait.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this was a crack-induced...
It was literally
crack-induced
Even
invention.
his actual success was based on crack.
It was a coke-fueled nightmare of him running around an empty room screaming, "Where's my pillow?" And that is where it came from. He woke up and was like, "I'm gonna make the world's best pillow."
Honestly, the book should have ended there. That's the perfect and that's how I made. That's hilarious. It's all crack stories and now I'm me. You don't need to know anymore. I was a crackhead for a long time. I might still be. And I made my pillow.
So him and his friends get in the car and drive to his daughter's college and bang on her door, and he's like, "Make me a logo, my pillow." And his daughter sits there, and it is still, according to him today, the MyPillow logo was the one that he just like invaded his daughter's home and was like, "Do it, please. This needs to go to market."
When is this book from?
2019 is when.
Okay, so it's got all the
It's
I guess it doesn't have COVID denying stuff.
Right. That's the thing. It's like right up to COVID and the election. So
Damn.
We need the follow up is going to be really
the
fucking
addendum at
crazy.
the end.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We want an encore.
Yeah, the spring addendum. But so he goes to Bed Bath & Beyond for market research, and he tells the guy, "I'm going to come back here one day and bring you the best pillow in the world." And I'm just thinking, this guy's getting paid fucking whatever, $7.82 an hour. Just okay, crazy guy.
I do believe that he smoked crack and went to a store and yelled at the employees. I do believe this part of the book.
Okay, yeah, we should write a list of all this stuff.
Believable parts. Yeah.
So this is what a crackhead actually does. This is what a crackhead remembers himself as doing.
So
it's 2 very different lists.
So right at the end, he says his entire life was consumed by MyPillow, and this was a genuinely funny line. He said, "My friends thought I was crazy. They'd say, 'What, are you on crack?' And then they'd remember, 'Oh yeah, he is.'" But yeah, and then
they wouldn't remember. That was a sarcastic comment they were making at your expense.
Yeah, they didn't just remember that. They're
they're making fun of you because they know you're there.
They hate you, and they joined a softball team to spite you. I've never known. No one's. Look, I don't know if everybody likes me, but no one's ever done anything that petty to me. No one's gone out of their way to play a sport
that they didn't even have interest in.
Of course not. It's a bar softball team. They're like, I'm going to start going to a different bar and join their softball. That's something out of Cheers.
So him and his wife, Karen, who he just casually reveals is also smoking a bunch of crack.
Okay.
How are these kids doing?
I mean, probably,
I want to read their book. They're the ones who deserve a book. This guy does not deserve a platform or a voice. But these poor kids, they should write novels.
So he starts manufacturing the MyPillows using 3 different types of foam that he runs through like a shredder, basically. And they set up a kiosk at the Edendale Prairie Mall, and they only sell 1 pillow on their first day. But the guy who bought the pillow was the head of the Minneapolis Home and Garden Show. What are the odds? And that's the end of chapter 23. So
what are the odds?
I think let's stop reading.
I know. And that's the thing is like, I'm like, you can feel it running out of gas as it goes. You're like, oh man, he's
because without the COVID stuff and the election stuff,
is it all just bad redemption?
Yeah, that's what
slash relapse slash relapse.
Man, doesn't it have to be half the book doesn't have to be redemption.
Yeah,
you need to have most of it being struggle and then redemption at the end. I think I'm not a writer.
Yeah, I don't know. I like I said, these segments I feel like are just going to get shorter and shorter as we get more into Jesus stuff because the last parts.
Are you more than halfway through the book? Do you think? Are they short chapters from now on? Maybe.
I don't know. We'll see. When last we left off with this book, which came out in 2019, Mike had just sold his foam smashing machine patent and a majority of MyPillow to a guy named Wayne for $84,000.
Nice work, Wayne.
And this chapter literally starts with him going, I realized I had found a new drug, selling pillows. And I wanted to say, I mentioned this last time, I had been reading this book, and then I found that you can actually listen to it for free on the audiobook. But here's the worst part. And I'm going to compare Mike Lindell to Violent J just briefly. He reads this book as if he's reading it for the first time. Like, as if it's not his story.
He periodically goes, huh.
Well, it's not
Wild.
like it's not that bad. He's just like, me and my friend Daryl were at the store, and then he insisted we go gambling, and so we took some money, and he's just reading it straight through, as opposed to
someone just walked in, gave him a book, and said, "Here, read this into this."
Right, like it's not conversational at all. And I, had been wanting to cover Violent J's autobiography, but he reads that in his stage voice, where he's like, so he's screaming it with no intonation.
The first thing happened when my brother Rob and I were running around in my mom's front yard in Berkeley. He was 6 and I was 4, and we were chasing one of those colorful, humongous ass butterflies. Suddenly, my brother started screaming, Joe, I got it! Rob had actually caught the butterfly. I was pretty fucking shocked, and so was he. So was the butterfly, I'm guessing.
For 6 hours, and I'm like, I need you to pretend you're having a conversation with me.
You didn't know this, that he's actually gotten a permanent procedure. So his voice is always like that. They call it ninjification.
Exactly. I mean,
he can't whisper.
Well, I've heard him in interviews, and he does.
He has a normal voice.
He has a normal voice, and I'm like, and I get that. I guess he's trying to,
be his character,
be the character.
But what's weird? All right, I'm gonna reveal too much information. I only find that surprising because I've heard him do audio narration in his normal voice.
Oh, really?
Because back when I was in college, me and my friend were drinking one night, and we were watching a bunch of ICP stuff, like you do. And we decided at one point to call the ICP hotline. Which was a thing you could call, like one of those fan things.
Yeah.
And it was just Violent J talking into the phone talking about how he was looking at a wall of laminates from old tours, reading old lineups and mumbling about stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
And but he was just like, yeah, no, okay, here's 98 in Irvine. Man, that was fun. We had Tech 9 opening for us. Tech 9 burned it down that night. That was a real, both of us. We saw, I'm trying to remember what it was, but we ended up on their website by the end of the evening.
Oh, shit.
And then saw that they had a fan line, and we're like, well, clearly we should call that right now at 2 a.m.
Well, yeah, you got to. Yeah. Was it 1-900? Did it cost money?
It probably did. I do remember making my friend make the call.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, there you go.
And then we just threw it on speakerphone and just listened. I should have taped it.
Yeah.
All right.
But I will. Oh, sorry.
If we're talking about books you need to listen to, Keith Richards' autobiography.
Life, yeah.
is my favorite because they like keep lying to other people because he can't remember. He's like, I couldn't remember.
If I'm not mistaken, they eventually got Johnny Depp to read it.
They did,
yeah.
But like, so it keeps handing off to different people. But the last part of the book, he's like, we'll give it off to the man himself, Keith Richards. And so then Keith Richards is talking about him recording an album in Jamaica. And he's like, I was recording this album. I went to a brothel. I hired a woman. I put her in the far off corner, and I sat in the other part of the corner. I'm playing a guitar, and I'm just playing it. Now, we had a vocalist on that album. I can't tell it as well as she can. But instead of having a woman, it is Keith Richards.
Oh, hell yes.
Doing the... Oh, I'm a pretty light. I wasn't. No, it's... I can't even do the patois.
Oh, no, is she... Wait, did he do a Chet Hanks?
Doing the impression of a... So it's Keith Richards doing an impression of a Jamaican woman.
Oh,
Wow.
so it's my new phone ringtone.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's at the very end of the book.
Okay, good,
Last
good.
chapter, you can zip ahead.
Come on, YouTube.
I can't even attempt that. I don't even know what that would sound like. I
can, but I'm not to do it because Virginia's here.
No, okay.
It's like when you see people and they're trying to break into... It's like that part in Ghostbusters where they're using the lasers for some reason to stop a ghost jewelry heist. The idea of the lasers bouncing through several prisms, that's what it is.
I believe it's that they couldn't see them, so they had to use the mirrors to create an area of effect.
But yeah, all of that is to say that when you read Mike Lindell, he reads like the guy at the end of the bar telling amazing bullshit stories where you're like, I'm here. Like, I know you're a bad dude.
You're a liar, but I will be here all
I
night.
will listen to your bullshit forever because it's just
I listened to a blind hippie tell me about going through the Amazon for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, yes. See, this is why we're simpatico in this way. I will listen to your dog shit because if it's well told. But then to listen to Mike Lindell, it's fucking boring. I was like, how do you make your stuff boring when you read it?
Shouldering through the crowds of tourists who blurred as I passed them, I rushed back to the hotel, clutching my drugs. Finally, my vacation had begun.
I have the question. Much like an 8th grader reading something from a paper, can you hear him hit the end of a sentence and then a paragraph and then move down orally to the next paragraph?
No, and this is why producing a podcast is bad when you're listening to audio, because I can tell they did the thing where they found and seeked silences to shorten it. So you can't really hear the delicious pauses and him fucking up. Like, someone did edit the shit out of this thing, but it comes off... It's not that it's unnatural. It's just, like I said, it sounds like somebody reading a thing. But it was funny to fire up that audiobook and just hear him go, I found a new drug, making pillows. But he talks about his Uncle Butch, who goes to rehab, then ends up drinking himself to death after getting out of rehab. But at Uncle Butch's funeral, a guy comes up to Mike and he says, Mike, you saved my life. And he ended up finding God. So Mike basically sets up this thing where he's still a hardcore crack addict, but all these people that he keeps counseling in stopping drugs keep coming up to him and going like, I'm great now. Thanks,
so he's like
buddy.
Forrest Crack.
He's Forrest Crack. Yes, he's going around Minnesota saving lives, but then, flushing his own down the toilet. So the foam smashing machine that he sold, it's called a hammer mill, and he sells it to this, this dude who basically buys it specifically to kill MyPillow. And he ends up locking it up in like a warehouse so Mike can't get to his pillows. So it is like a Super Mario situation where you're looking at the wrong castle, Mike. It's somewhere else. So him and his wife his wife is also smoking crack, by the way, and they're
important to have hobbies.
Yeah, and they begin hiding their crack addiction. Well, that's the thing; they're not doing it mutually. Like, they're both trying to hide.
Lame. They'd have so much fun together.
I know, right? Yeah, and
can you imagine? It would be like the Pina Colada song. Like, they sit across and they're like, "But I smoke crack," and then just have a hearty laugh about it.
So he goes to the Riverside Casino in Laughlin, Nevada, because at this point he's making all of his money counting cards. And he says 2006 was card counting, home shows, and state fairs for me. That's how he starts it off because he's selling pillows.
It's like a Bob Dylan lyric.
And card counting. Yeah, exactly. He ends up meeting the owner of the casino in Laughlin, whose name is Don Laughlin.
Hell
Wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you know it?
Don Laughlin's a great name.
Yeah, but I just like that he's in the city of Laughlin and he's trying to come up with a name that's obviously bullshit for this book. And he's just like, his name was Don Laughlin. Yes, he happened to be from Laughlin.
I for no reason. But whenever I'm listening to an episode of anything Kyle's done or anything Rivers has done, I feel necessary to text at them randomly my notes.
It's exciting. I remember I learned people listen to the show.
Yeah.
There's a drug dealer that was called the Greek earlier in this book.
That's right, El Greco.
I'm here to tell you that the Greek was a character in The Wire. He is a drug dealer in The Wire. That
Baltimore in the house, ladies and gentlemen.
That's played by, I believe, one of his henchmen is one of the Fratellis from
that band.
Goonies.
Oh, from Goonies.
Oh, wait. The director of My Son Hunter? Robert Davi? Oh, no. All of my podcast things are collapsing on themselves.
That's pretty good.
It's like when you step into a puddle that's deeper than you think. That's what talking to both Rivers and Kyle and Virginia is like.
She got factoids.
I've never performed at the Rivers Edge Casino in Laughlin, Nevada, but I have performed at the Edgewater Casino in Laughlin, Nevada.
Oh,
and
is there water in Laughlin,
never played
Nevada?
a casino.
Okay, here's what it is. There's a river. The river runs through it, and Arizona is right over there. And so what happens? And then Arizona doesn't do time change, and Nevada does. So on New Year's Eve, you party on the one side, and then you go across the bridge,
And you can party again.
Again.
Okay.
That's pretty sweet. It's like being at Pleasure Island.
Yeah. And I think Rivers Edge is maybe where you see cheap movies. Anyway, it's a real shithole and no one should go.
So Don Laughlin writes his name on a business card and hands it to Mike and says, I've got an interest in MyPillow. And that allows Mike to get this other dude, Price, who's holding his hammer mill hostage. He's like, I've got a millionaire who could sue you. So that's how he ends up getting his hammer mill back, which again is a foam smashing machine for his private.
Could not be replicated or duplicated in any way.
Well, so he does end up having to do that exactly, but not before selling his business to more businessmen, Colby and Bates, who buy 38% of MyPillow's stock. They then orchestrate some quick moves,
Some chicanery,
and acquire 41% of the stock, which allows them to fire Mike Lindell and his wife from MyPillow. So he's like,
I really didn't think it out all the way.
That's the thing. He's like, they stabbed me in the back. So he's very mad about this. At that point, he's trying to get his company back, and he's approached by FBI agents who have been looking into his bankruptcy from the last one. And they're like, yeah, we know your bankruptcy is fucked up and bullshit, but we're actually going after your lawyers for being corrupt. So if you talk to us, we'll get you out of this.
I'll have to talk to my lawyer first.
Yeah. So he agrees to snitch, I guess, on his lawyers, but they...
Everybody knows that Jesus was a narc. Look at him. Thou shalt rat.
MyPillow is filled with files that are about the rest
They're
of the...
full of documents.
They're full of documents. I get to sleep knowing that they will save me in court.
We get to February 2007, which is when the Greek thing happens from the very beginning of this book. So now we're caught up with the prologue. Where
now
he goes,
you know how I got here.
Yeah, and he keeps referring
This is where we started the story.
He keeps referring to the guys that attempted to rob him in the streets of Mexico as Clean Cut and Eyes. So those are the names. Eyes apparently held a machete to his neck. Then the next day, him and his friend
feared for my life and was erect to the point where it hurt.
When did Richard Nixon start in the story?
My voice is all turned into Richard Nixon. I've got two impressions, Nixon and Cher, and I got to kind of like spread them out into more things.
I believe if you look at all of the things in this pillowcase, I am not a crook.
I believe in life after love.
Oh, God.
Him and his friend Skelly charter a boat, and he tells Skelly all of his problems.
God, I want a friend named Skelly.
And Skelly, his names are incredible. Eyes, Clean Cut, Skelly, Toad, Uncle Butch.
construct a new gang for West Side Story.
I'm sad I wasn't taking notes of all of the people he mentions in this.
I believe that's most of the names of the punks in the decline of Western civilization. This is Eyes. This is Skelly. We got this band called X. Oh, that Nazi thing? You know, we're contrarian.
It's more of a fashion thing. We also use the N-word.
So he tells Skelly that all of his problems, they're on this boat, and he goes, what would you do, Skelly? And he goes, I'd jump off this fucking boat. That's Skelly. Skelly's being helpful. They
if you're not part of the problem, you're part of. You know what I mean, Skelly. My feelings are hurt.
My name's Skelly. You know what my answer is. We're going to go get ribs.
So Colby and Bates, the businessman that he sold the thing to and is now potentially trying to get the thing back from him, they show up at his house and they are very obviously wearing a wire. So they're like, Mike, would you allow us into the factory? And he's like, hell no, I wouldn't let you in the factory. And so now they have him on tape saying that he's denying them access to the factory that they technically own. So now they're going to, I guess, call the cops on him. Meanwhile, his wife is dating a guy named Steve pretty openly while they go to a party. They party.
Well, it was a bummer. He was a good guy.
They say that Steve was, quote, one of those guys who considered himself a ladies' man, and all the ladies he liked were married. Mike is 46 years old, and he's still smoking a shitload of crack and trying to figure out how to get out of debt. At Karen's 50th birthday party that he holds for her at the American Legion Hall, which I'm like, what every woman has always played. Yes, please, let's have a party at the place where all of the sad Vietnam vets drink and scream. Yeah. So everyone ends up at Steve's house afterwards, and they party all night, and Karen decides to not leave Steve's house in the morning. Mike's like, let's go, and she's like, I'm fucking staying at Steve's.
He should have known that she was going to cheat on him because
she was cheating on him.
She just hung close to the one guy who didn't have a nickname. She was cheating on Mike
Steve.
with Steve.
Yeah.
It was either going to be Mike, Steve, or Jeff.
It was a knife in my heart, but not as sharp as the one had it been Skelly.
So
Skelly, Jolly, Eyes, Fingers. None of them are
El Greco.
They've all got their blues band and their jazz band they've got to do, but anybody with a polo shirt is going to try to steal his wife.
So he goes home without his wife, and then he's like, my house is a mess. If I clean the house, she'll come back. And he walks into his son's room. And his son's room is filthy. He's 18 years old, by the way. And he tells him to clean the room. And his son's like, fuck off, Dad. And and this is what he says. I threw his dragon bong across the room. And I was like, no one has a dragon bong. And if they do, it's ironic. No one just naturally gets a dragon bong.
Dragon Bong Z.
And it's stuck to the wall because it is the bedroom of an 18-year-old boy, and everything is sticky.
Mike has a long night of the soul in his office with Crack and a guy named Charlie. Karen leaves with Steve, and now we've arrived at book 3, which is titled Jesus. And so the moment, according to Mike, the moment his wife leaves for good, that is the exact moment the power company kills the lights in his house. And I'm like, yes, that's how these happen.
Dramatically
Cinematic.
convenient.
Yep. So Mike keeps, this is just what I wrote. Mike keeps driving by Steve's house thinking about punching him. He punches out Steve's window. Steve fixes it the next day. Mike goes back the next day and punches it out again. The next day, he does a home invasion, and Karen hides in the closet. The next day, he drives up in Steve's driveway. Steve is on the phone with the cops saying, the criminal is back. Mike Lindell is here. And he punches Steve in the face, and Steve dramatically rolls down the hill. And then he gets in his car and like Hulk smashes his dashboard, and it causes the window to like break like spider webs.
I was very strong.
I was crack strong.
I will say, like, as you're saying this, I'm realizing that most of the passages from this book read like the video segments from backstage at a WWE event. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just like him driving up and the camera crew's there, and it's clearly like the Undertaker's house.
Shaped like a coffin.
Mike has a spy named Rachel, who he's also, hanging out with on the side. Rachel goes by Steve's house to confirm that Steve has indeed called the cops, which is like, yeah, you drove to his house and punched him in the face.
And then Rachel's boyfriend, Chandler.
He goes to the spy's house and parties for 4 days and never checks on his kids the whole time. So now the wife is with Steve.
Rachel sounds fun. You should date her.
Yeah, but she should also be like, hey, Mike, don't you have like a shitload of kids? Where are they if your wife's at Steve's house?
Less fun.
Yeah.
My son is trying to do a bong hit off a 90-degree angle.
He finds out that the corporate guys still haven't bought the patent for MyPillow, and he has until midnight. And if they don't buy it by midnight, he can then potentially borrow some money and buy the thing. So very, very dramatic. His brother
It's called a ticking clock device.
It's like, it's tightly written. It's like every chapter is like another incredible
I aim
Hulk
to
episode.
have some of the fun of a Jack Reacher novel.
His brother is the one who ends up like buying the patent, and so now and let's hope he sold it before 2020, but he has like a huge stake in the company. His brother does, because of this event, and everyone vows to quit smoking crack that night. Mike finally goes to sleep after many days, and then Rachel then smokes crack even after she said she wouldn't. Mike drives home and he keeps hearing a screaming sound. And then he realizes it's him.
Now, on that topic, team, we're about 30 minutes into our power drink pina colada experience. Is anybody else seeing tracers?
I'm vibing. I am fucking vibing.
Yeah.
No, but again, I have learned with caffeine, due to decisions I made in my youth, caffeine is sort of a polite whisper most of the time in my brain.
Mike calls 911 and then says that Steve is holding his wife against her will, which then just involves the cops being like, oh, yeah, you're that crackhead. And they show up and arrest him.
Hi, is this 911? Somebody's holding my wife against her will. I need her to be here so I can hold her against her will here at home.
Their divorce only takes 3 weeks. And
he's awake for every night of it.
Land speed record.
And the thing is, he keeps talking about how broke he is, but then he also somehow buys another house that he keeps referring to as my house in the woods. And so I'm like, is it a real house, or do you just imagine it's a house?
Is
it just the woods? It's
Right.
just the woods, right?
Some people use the word tent, which I find offensive.
I refer to it as my own private Idaho.
He now also moves in with crackhead Rachel, and he says it was a constant storm of drugs and arguments.
In there.
Rachel moves out. Mike then experiences what he calls a walking coma, and he says
In there
that
as well.
And he said that that's what his doctors called it too. And I'm like, no, they didn't.
Would you say the words walking coma for me, please? Even if the words are, it is not before.
And guess what gets him out of his walking coma? His friend Jim leaves some chocolate popcorn at his doorstep. And that's what gets him out. I was like, you are...
My sweet tooth was stronger than my crack tooth.
The only thing that pries me from a crack binge is Boy Scout popcorn.
Well, I know I'm a crack addict. I have always been a lifelong chocoholic.
He gets his first TV shot. He goes on public access to talk about MyPillow, and they keep rerunning this segment. And then he claims, okay, this is he's saying he's up at like 2 a.m, and he has a line that he gave on the TV show for the MyPillow line. And he says that while he's sitting up smoking crack, a woman calls the MyPillow line to pray with him and tell him that the work he's doing is important. Mike does coke while he's praying with the lady. He's also simultaneously reading a website called The Devil's Candy about how to quit smoking crack. While this is going on, another lady calls him and says, God told me what you're doing is important. And then
Selling pillows?
And then a guy calls and says, I don't believe in God, but I keep having these dreams that what you're doing is important to God. And now that I've called you, maybe these dreams will stop, you asshole.
Helping Christians get rest is important.
He claims that in this one night, he got like 5 random phone calls from people being like, God told me to call you.
Oh, so this is a lie.
Yes, of course. Yes, this is insane.
I like to believe people.
What's going on? No, I've got laminates on the walls. Your trouble reminds me of the time I was in Reseda. Tech 9 was opening for me. I did a line of coke and then snorted Fago off a woman's vagina.
Sounds awesome.
I'll pray with you.
I'd pray for that.
The fifth person that calls.
I got my prayer while praying.
The 5th person that calls, he describes as a robot woman, calls and says, Mike, this is a message from God. Everything you've experienced will help you live through the next 6 months.
God robot was really giving me the business.
Do you believe in life after love?
I'm a simple Christian. I believe in the simple Christian values of creating products that lead people into the future and robot messengers from God.
Do you feel like you could be strong enough now?
Crackhead Rachel comes back and says that she has now called the cops on him. And he runs away and steals her car, goes to his dealer Joe in Minneapolis, and then this is the most famous thing about this book. This is when this happens. He stays there and he runs MyPillow over the phone and stays awake for 2 weeks straight. And when he comes out, he goes in the bathroom to just wash his face. And when he comes out, all of the local Minneapolis drug dealers, Tiggs, Ray, and Joe, they stage an intervention on Mike Lindell.
Craggy John.
Wait, where was Eyes in all this?
Feldman.
I think Eyes is back in whatever weird town he lives in. Yeah.
Domino Jerry.
Skull.
Leaving.
Piranha.
Midnight Mike.
Fat Stevie.
Magic Mike.
Tiny Stevie.
Regular Stevie.
The Stevie brothers.
Normal Mike.
Violent J.
Open Mike.
Ugly
He
Violet.
doesn't do comedy. He's just really open with his feelings.
Tommy Two-Tone. It's not the guy
Tommy
you're thinking of.
Tommy one tone. Tommy no tone.
So they basically have, like I said, they have an intervention with him, and they say that basically Tiggs goes, Mike, how much crack do you have left? He's like, I got 2 rocks. And he's like, I'm going to sit here until you smoke all of it, and that's going to be it, and no one's going to sell to you. Wow. And so he waits till he smokes the rocks, waits till Tiggs falls asleep, goes out on the street, and indeed, no one will sell crack to him. Not a single person in Minneapolis. Yeah, because those drug dealers, they told him, if you sell to the crazy white guy with the mustache, you're done. And
here's a question I already know the answer to, but I'll ask anyways. Have any of you had a friend who's been cut off before from professional drug dealers? I'm looking at you, Andy.
I have a friend who did too much nitrous.
Mm-hmm.
He got cut off.
That's a pretty low bar.
He did what I did. I had never heard the phrase, but I'm here to tell you, nitrous psychosis is a real thing, and he came out of the hospital, yelled that he was, and thought he was at a protest, and yelled. And this really happened, unlike Mike's. And everybody in all of the different deadhead nitrous circles outside of the shows at fish shows would not sell him balloons.
Yeah. The what is it? The Pittsburgh nitrous mafia.
Yeah, it's something like that.
A cutoff is always an impressive thing in those kinds of worlds because you've done some shit.
Not since a spooky clown has people with a balloon been threatening.
You ever met somebody who, like, you've heard stories that they're cut off and then you get to see why? I used to work a trivia gig where there was a lady who didn't drink a lot.
Oh, I thought you were going to say got cut off from trivia.
No. She continued. That place needed business.
Okay. Yeah.
But she did not drink. It was this fun group of older folk that all thought I was fun. They were all kind of older Gen Xers who liked that I like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Have word will travel. And so they one of them didn't drink a ton, and then one night she started drinking, and then all hell broke loose. And it was truly one of those like, oh, I super get this.
Right. They're not fucking around. Like, this is a serious thing.
I also, man, I'm just telling stories that aren't mine left and right today, leaving shit anonymous. I have a friend who a couple tried to lure him and his friend into, at I believe it was either a party or a concert, into hanging out in their car and doing nitrous with them in the hope that they would both then have sex with this guy's wife.
We like your vibe. We want to have this balloon.
Perhaps also Donna.
Let's meet in mutual consent.
Drive all the way to
that's too
intercourse
good of a-
tonight.
God, having an affair at a hotel in mutual consent would be pretty funny.
Tiggs took this picture on the cover, by the way.
Oh.
So he was like, "I'm going to take
Both
your
of them?
No, just the one where he's all messed up. He's like, "I'm going to take this picture and you're going to put it in your book one day." And then I'm holding the book.
I'm waiting for Tiggs's book, probably called "I'm Still Alive."
Yeah.
This is a Tig Notaro joke. It's for no one but
No, I
every
liked
person
it.
in this room.
No, the Tiggs book is called "I Did Not Get Sued for $1.3 billion, did a bunch of crack and had a great time." So Mike goes to get drugs at a club in Minneapolis and meets a guy who knows Tony, who is the kid from Memphis that was sitting on the pile of dirt from the last episode. And he goes on to tell him that Tony now owns a bunch of restaurants in Memphis, and he calls you the angel from the north for saving his life.
Hell yeah.
What are the odds? Mike stops talking to his non-crack friends. He finds his out-of-body crack essay that we talked about last time hidden behind the picture frame. And then turns out God is a snitch, because God tells Mike's sister that he's smoking crack. She calls him and is like, "God told me you were smoking crack, Mike."
God was
But
the
did she
name
also say-
of a local heroin addict with a big mouth, though.
Did she also say he was doing important work?
She said that the word platform keeps getting used. Like, this pillow company is going to be a platform for God, Mike. You need to keep your eyes on the prize and stop smoking that fucking that mellow
sweet
rock. Yeah.
I think he's setting this up for this eventually to become a video game.
Hear me out. At a certain point, we discovered that God is a crack rock.
Mike gets arrested in Vegas, but he doesn't know why. He spends 3 days in jail without knowing why he was being held.
Looking back.
It turns out the Stardust Casino had sold their unpaid debts to a collection agency, and he'd never paid $100 line of credit for back in the Schmitty's days. When he
set a mattress on fire.
he gets let out. His son Darren finally leaves him. Darren's had enough, and so
Real asshole move.
and then Rachel leaves him and takes all the furniture. So now he's just in his house in the woods.
Now I'm on the floor.
It was just me and the floor and a dragon bong attached to a wall upside down.
January 2009. This is apparently his lowest point, which I'm like, was it your lowest point also? Because that's when Obama got. Anyway, Mike is homeless.
Thank you for reading between the lines.
Mike is homeless. He smokes more crack and he couch surfs with his friend Bruce. Sadness.
Does this imply he got his life together during the Obama administration?
Yes, absolutely. Sadness. He calls this period equal parts sadness and excitement.
That's the only equality he believes in.
Because he still had a pillow and a dream.
Yeah, well, apparently the pillow work is just piling up. Like, he keeps referring back to it. He's like, I had 500 unanswered answering machine messages for MyPillow while all this is happening. I think this is maybe the time where he actually decides to quit. He said he's losing his friend cocaine, but he's excited about his new life. And on January 16th, 2009, he prayed, "God, when I wake up, I don't ever want to have the desire for drugs or alcohol again." And that is that's the end of chapter
If I give up
34.
those whites, can we get other whites to come back?
So yeah, basically the big message with this one, less card counting, so it was less boring to me than the last chapter, because as I said, to me, that's why I can't get into Vegas. It's just, oh, you want to do math and lose money? Like,
That's
no,
why you and I got to go to Vegas, Rivers, because I will show you how to have a good time. It involves getting drunk and going to an aquarium.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, I just mean like doing like try to pitch me on a casino. It's like, yes, you're going to sit there, you're going to be bad at math like you always are, and you're going to lose money. I'm like, those are my least favorite things.
But you can smoke indoors, and they will give you Long Island iced teas every 25 minutes.
That's true.
I mean, yeah, fair enough.
And surrounded by the saddest, fattest people you've ever seen.
And also
true.
my mom.
And also your mom.
I believe the only way he could card count is if he knocked a deck of cards off a table and pointed and said 52.
Is this a segment coming up later? Because I happen to notice a Mike Lindell book.
Oh, wow. King of segues. Caleb.
I didn't know if this was part of the podcast or if this was just you doing some light reading.
Oh, yeah. I know.
It's kind of both.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm jealous, man. It's one of those things I don't want to buy them because I don't even want anyone at any store to be like, look at this guy.
Yeah, well, so I have great news for you. He has on his website as a download the audiobook, and it's free.
And is it him saying
It's
it?
him reading it. And as I've said,
wow.
But here's the unfortunate part. It's him reading it as if he's never read this before. Like he's just kind of like as if it's not.
You're gonna be like, oh my.
Well, no, like say you wrote an autobiography and then you were supposed to read the audiobook. You would probably read it as if you were having, a monologue, a one-sided conversation, perhaps. Like, whatever. You'd put some intonation and stuff like that. It's literally just him being like, on the 4th of January, I found the perfect foam. The foam came in 2 different kinds. We mixed the kinds together. And it is that for fucking 4.5 goddamn hours. Just like that.
Wow.
No slowing down, no intonation, nothing. Just him being like, the 40th time I smoked crack was the craziest. So it's more fun if you know what his voice sounds like. It's more fun to read it in his voice in your own brain than it is to actually listen to him. I'll say that.
Yeah.
There's so many notations in your copy of it.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing that up front. And by the way, at the end of there's 44 chapters in this book.
The front is I haven't seen a 3D cover in a while.
It's a hologram, baby, or a holograph. It goes. So that's a picture of him from when he was at his worst. That was taken at when his crack dealers staged an intervention on him. And
his crack dealer staged an intervention?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And so,
he had to have run out of money or something.
So one of the crackheads took that picture of him looking all broke, and then the next one is him as the.
I mean, he's just smiling.
The crazy man you see on TV.
It doesn't look like he gained or lost weight.
Yeah.
It doesn't look.
He
doesn't
got a
look
haircut.
older or younger.
He's still got the mustache.
I mean, maybe the crack was bad, but he doesn't look that bad.
Yeah.
Wasn't Chris's assumption is that he's lying about all of this?
Oh, damn.
And
okay.
I was willing to go with that because I think at a certain level there's definitely some exaggeration happening. He's conflating events and things like that.
A crackhead?
Yeah, exactly. But as I said, I'm like, I am willing to listen to a liar tell great stories.
Yes.
I love a guy who's full of shit, who has just...
I've had enough of the truth. I know where to go for it.
I know.
I'm not buying a book to learn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. The truth is you sat at your house and did drugs for 30 years. That's not that entertaining. I want to know about the day you crashed your motorcycle on the way to your parachute failing, which is a thing he claims in this book. Yes. Yeah. He says that he had 2 near-death experiences in one day.
Well, I love my dad. And I'm like, half my dad's stories, I'd say there's a 20 to 30% crazy exaggeration. Anything that happened before like 1980.
Yeah, sure.
Like, okay, Dad.
Yeah.
We'll see. And my dad is a teetotaler preacher.
Yeah.
So it's like, if this dude...
Well, now he is too.
I gotta know.
Yeah. So this book, as I said before on the show, has 44 chapters. So we've broken it up into 11 chapters each, and had to kind of sit on this last part for a little while. But here it is. This is the final installment, my final book report on What Are the Odds.
You're done with it?
From Crack Addict to CEO. I finished it, and I've got notes that I was going to...
Oh, man.
So I'm going to share...
Hell yeah.
I'm going to share my notes with y'all from the last 11 chapters of What Are the Odds. Catching up from the last section, he makes a firm vow for the 900th time to stop smoking crack. And this time he's done for real. And so he wakes up on January 16th, 2009 on his friend Bruce's couch and decides to start his life over. And he says that at that point, magically, through the power of Jesus, his desire for drugs and alcohol totally gone. And he goes to his sister's house to announce that he had finally quit. then he had to find his friend Rachel, who's also a crackhead that he was kind of dating, to help build MyPillow back up. Because he sort of let the company fall to the wayside.
Well, the first thing you do is you find your most business savvy crackhead.
Yes,
friend.
The most industrious crackhead in Minnesota.
Oh.
The next day he wakes up in his sister's basement and he has the phrase, "Run, baby, run. Run, baby, run," repeating in his head.
Okay.
So...
Okay, from the crack.
The withdrawal.
Yeah. So he, of course, goes to the library and finds the book "Run, Baby, Run" by Nicky Cruz. Cruz is he was a former gangster who became an evangelical Christian.
Okay.
And I believe he's the guy who he went like to promote a book or something on David Letterman, and David Letterman was kind of like, yeah, with the Jesus stuff. How many people did you kill? You're like,
Wow.
So he finds this book. So he's like, I wasn't comparing myself to this guy. He has a much crazier life than me, but it did give me inspiration.
Man.
Yeah.
Imagine if this dude was still smoking crack.
What he could achieve.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's I feel like he may or may not have switched to some Adderall.
See, I'm skeptical as to whether he even smokes crack. I think he's just a pathological liar.
I mean, that's entirely possible because the only evidence of it is this.
Yeah, like
Somebody
the
smokes crack.
It's this one.
Someone's smoking crack in this
doing it.
operation. Yeah,
It's a good business.
I mean, yeah, people love it. There's a fervent customer base
I'm
for it.
hearing about it every day.
So if people remember from the last time, these two guys, Frank and Jack, have sort of taken the company away from him essentially and made him an independent operator selling his own product. And so they're now making a play to get him out of there and take the company. So they start taking over his shows at state fairs and spreading around that Mike is a druggie. We're MyPillow now.
What?
Yeah, they're trying to cut him out of the fucking business, and they're holding his pillow fabric hostage for $30,000.
Wow.
Man.
So Mike goes to the bar, and
Just because he's a crazy iconoclast, because he parties a little bit.
yeah,
He's going to get his genius idea stolen from him.
They're holding him down, so he needs to make $30,000 to get his pillow fabric out of Hawk, and so he goes to his favorite bar and meets up with a cowboy named Jack, who gets him in the room with some investors.
What city is this again?
This is all in like Minneapolis.
Minneapolis? Okay.
Yeah, like he's from like some small town in Minnesota, but most of the action's happening in Minneapolis here. He finds Cowboy Jack and he goes to meet with some investors, and this is his, as far as I could tell, one single solitary attempt at a joke. He goes, "There was a CFO, a CIO, a CEO, and maybe even a CIEIO."
Oh, no.
It's like, dude, the crack. You were better with the crack, man. You were better with the crack.
That's even worse than I thought.
You know, like CIEIO.
That's like a joke for like a 5-year-old who's aware of government agencies. It's like for a person that doesn't exist.
He walks into this meeting with a t-shirt. He's wearing a t-shirt and jeans, holding a pillow and 3 jars of foam. And he tells them, there's all these rich guys. He's trying to get $30,000 off of them. He proceeds to tell them about how he's been a crazy drug maniac. And they say, "Well, when did you quit the crack?" And he goes, "Last Thursday."
Whoa.
And they
dude.
give him $30,000 in cash.
What?
He walks out with a Halliburton full of 30. And I'm like, who are these insane rich guys?
Is he right?
I mean,
Should we all do crack and then stop?
it's like,
Like the crack hangovers, like breed genius ideas.
I don't know. I mean, if that worked,
Every huge technological innovation of the last like 40, Floam, Nickelodeon Floam,
Gak,
crack hangover. Yeah.
Gak, Floam,
Tubi,
Quibi, all the great ideas.
everything that ends with an I.
CISO.
Crack hangover.
Yeah, crack hangover.
Or for this guy,
is there a hangover associated with crack?
it's got to be, right?
Well,
There better be.
I'm not going to do it, and there's not going to be a hangover. I'm going to be upset.
I don't.
Well, there's one with cocaine, right? Like,
That's
You
what
just-
I hear.
You just
Yeah.
want more.
Yeah, I've never done crack or cocaine. According to this
No.
book, the reason he prefers crack is because you could sleep. Apparently, like when the high wears off, you can actually like go to sleep. According to
How many milligrams of caffeine is in crack?
yeah.
Or was it that incredible pillow he had his head on?
I mean, so yeah, the Run Baby Run is only the most recent, voice in his head. Previously, he was had somebody screaming in his head, going, "Where's my pillow? Where's my pillow?" And that's how he got the
I
name for
missed
the
this
company.
section.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
where he got the name for the company because a demon was screaming it at him in his crack sleep.
Unreal.
Have you gotten a MyPillow yet?
No,
you really should get one.
I have slept on one, and it is not great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, he walks out with $30,000 cash. One of the highlights of this book is all of his, the people he meets along the way, where he recalls their strange names. So his drug counselor at his church is named Rafe Ronning.
Rafe Ronning.
Rafe Ronning. And everybody's, sharing their stories, and it gets to him, and he goes, "I have a pillow company that's some kind of platform for God." And that's and then he starts telling more crack stories at his church rehab program. His sister, meanwhile, she's also having visions. So the whole family's fucking nuts of a woman in a teal dress with long dark hair that is going to be Mike's future bride. So she just knows it. Meanwhile, he meets up with a guy named Tom Clapp. And
Man, these names.
and
They're so made up. he's fucking spitballing.
Tom
There's
Clapp.
Rafe Rumdurm, and then there's Tom Clapp, and then there's there was Jim Durm, and then my sister, she had a vision
of my wife.
of my wife.
My wife.
Take my wife, please. Yeah, he tries another.
Wait, there's an idea. Borat. Let's make this.
And then I came up with Borat.
So Tom Clapp, he makes Tom Clapp MyPillow's chief praying officer.
Chief praying officer.
So he's like the spiritual council.
Boy, that's a job I want.
MyPillow. Yeah, I know, for real. If there's
12
money,
hours today.
yeah. You owe me. You owe me overtime, motherfucker.
Yeah, dude.
I prayed for 14 hours.
Clock
That's-
in with an app.
and begin. So he gets to the Minnesota State Fair, and his bread and butter at this point is doing fair shows and demonstrating the pillow to the people. And these assholes, Jack and Frank.
That part I kind of believe. That he was showing, he was demoing MyPillow at state fairs.
Shout out to a friend of the show, Eric Nelson. That's where he got his MyPillow. Was
Okay.
before this guy was on TV, before any of this stuff.
What?
Yeah, so a friend of ours who listens to the show up in Minneapolis went to the Minnesota State Fair, and this guy was like selling the MyPillow, and he's like, "Okay, yeah, I'll take a chance on it." But way, before anybody knew
And what did he say about the pillow?
anything. I mean, it's in the guest bedroom.
Oh,
So
well, can't be that
that
good.
tells you everything you need to know. But yeah, he's at this. He's at
That's
this,
nice of them not to throw it out.
Yeah. Just a subtle dig to all the guests.
Hey,
my neck hurts.
I mean,
Is it a conservative crazy person pillow in the guest bedroom? You could get a hotel. You could totally get a hotel. There's also the bed is ridden with lice, and the Mike Lindell MyPillow is what you'd sleep on. But you could get a hotel. It's right down the street. It's very affordable.
at the Minnesota State Fair, the guys who were trying to take the company from him called the police and claimed that Mike was threatening them. And
wow.
but then Mike talked to the cops and was like, "When was the supposed attack?" And they're like, 105. And he happened to have in his pocket a receipt from across the fair at exactly 105. So he proved them a liar. So at the next fair, they got
Listening to a toddler tell a fucking lie about breaking a vase. Like it's the same.
Wow.
at the next fair, Frank gets on the mic that goes out over the fair and says, "There's Mike Lindell. He destroyed his business because he's a no-good meth addict." And Mike yells back, "It was crack. Get it right."
Wow.
That's pretty funny. I'll say that.
That's
pretty
funny.
That's a funny line. He then begins a fight with the Better Business Bureau.
Oh, wow.
Which he's
Enemies of fun.
he currently still has an F, like as of right now. If you go to Better Business Bureau, MyPillow has an F rating, and because he has all these weird pricing schemes where he's like, it's 2 for 1, but it's the price of 2. Like just all this.
Is that illegal?
Yeah,
I assume that's what happened every time.
Yeah, I mean,
2 for 1 drinks are illegal, right?
Yeah, I mean,
but other things are like you can't just sell.
Yeah. Well, he says
if you're a prostitute,
top end ass for the price.
The Better Business Bureau is always hanging out.
2 breasts for the price of 1. Yeah. Better Business Bureau in a trench coat, fake mustache.
You gotta have a half-hour lunch break for all these hookers.
When exactly do you hit the streets?
So if you go on the website now, there is a standard response to any complaint. So there's people just being like, the shipping was fucked up, this thing didn't work, blah, blah, blah. Every complaint they write, we do not recognize the Better Business Bureau as a legitimate company. Therefore, we will not responding to any further communications. So that's what they're doing. Today, they're still doing this.
I didn't know you could do that.
He gets his first national exposure when he meets Don Imus. So he's
the racist guy. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
What team did he own? He owned a basketball team.
No, you're thinking of Sterling.
That was a different racist.
Don Imus. Sterling.
Don Imus was the radio host who called the Rutgers women's team nappy-headed hose. That was his.
Yeah.
He was this old fuck with like a cowboy hat who used to just be racist on the air.
Yeah,
It's kind of his thing. But that is where Mike, this is like before the infomercial or anything, this is where he got his start because apparently Don Imus loved MyPillow.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. And and he would have him on, and Mike would talk about his card counting and the crack and going to Mexico. And then his representative tells Mike, Mr. Imus has never listened to anyone talk for that long. So he charmed Don Imus. And at that point, Don Imus begins talking about MyPillow, and that is where this shit starts.
Really?
So this is before the infomercial. He just was selling these around, somehow got in the room with Don Imus to try to become an advertiser, and Don Imus started spieling for MyPillow on the air.
Whoa.
At this point,
it's like being out here. You never know who you meet. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, just
Johnny Carson once said, be ready.
Yeah,
always be ready.
That's right. Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah, the racist cowboy man will take me to the cloud.
You can sell your brick pillow to an incoherent, senile racist in a cowboy hat. And now we're reading his hologram book on our podcast.
The hologram book.
He goes from frowny to happy.
Cool.
Dude, there's so
It's cool,
there's so many pictures in that book.
What's the last book you remember that had a hologram cover?
None.
Dude.
0.
Animorphs?
I was gonna say Animorphs.
There it is. There it is. Yeah, boom.
It's definitely been since like a elementary school book fair since I've seen something like that.
I feel like there was a Choose Your Own Adventure Goosebumps that had one, maybe. But so he's about to film the infomercial. The makeup lady who's doing his makeup for the infomercial, she was Prince's makeup lady. Oh. And so he tells his famous Prince story, which is that in Panama City, Florida, he punched out a biker at a bar, and then he had to run from a biker gang. So he ran into a bar, and he realized very quickly he was the only white guy in the bar. So in order to impress the patrons, he decided to get up and sing Purple Rain.
Every black person's favorite song. Every time I'm in an all-black bar, it's like "Don't Stop Believing" for black people.
Yeah, except "Don't Stop Believing" isn't 8 minutes fucking long. So like, not only is it like dumb, it is also a really long song. But apparently, he just bowled the crowd over. They loved him. They're like, look at this.
Even during the instrumental break.
You can just
the 3-minute instrument.
Fucking idiot with his giant head and his mustache, just fucking Pete Townsend windmilling air guitar.
Wow. Some new person comes in and they're like, shh, we're watching something right now.
We're seeing the craziest man in Panama City. But apparently he got a standing ovation.
I'm sure.
And then years later, he got to go to Paisley Park. and he's at Paisley Park to see Bob Seger, who's playing like a little show at Prince's house, and he's really excited, and he starts talking to this guitar tech, and he tells this guitar tech the whole story, and the guitar tech is like, oh man, so you're a big Prince fan, huh? And he's like, yeah, I love Prince. He's one of my favorite artists. He goes, that's cool. And then he walks out on stage, and it turns out that guitar tech was Prince.
Oh, come on.
Which means
Bob Seger's guitar tech was Prince?
no, he just thought it was a guitar tech. Seeger didn't show up, so Prince goes on stage, and then he's like, oh, that guy was Prince. And I'm like, Prince is one of the
That's
most...
like when he's telling that story.
No
he
one
like,
looks like Prince.
That's what I'm saying.
only Prince looks like Prince.
No one.
That's like having a conversation with the Hamburglar and then being surprised it's the Hamburglar. Like, Prince is one of the most distinctive human beings on earth. Like,
That story, like when he
That's
told people that
insane.
story, like he would just see like the interest like leaving their face, and he's like, and then it turned out to be Prince.
Yeah.
And then he like tried to get him back with that huge lie.
well, so apparently the makeup lady who was Prince's makeup lady goes, oh my God, that was you? That's Prince's favorite story to tell.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
I've watched interviews with Prince.
I've never heard. Oh, let me tell you about this fucking mustachioed idiot.
What would be in it for Prince?
Nothing.
At the end, it was me.
He's like, yeah, he
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Prince tells it.
Let me tell you the legend of this guy named Mike Lindell.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Hey, you know that pillow guy who's on at 3 a.m. on Fox News?
One of his last interviews, like, Prince, we'd like to talk about your new record,
No.
Musicology. He's like,
No.
the record's come and go. Let me tell you about this guy I met named Mike Lindell.
Oh, my God.
He films the commercial. It goes wide. This is when most people become aware of him. His famous moment in the commercial where he screams, "Down pillows are ruining America," and he throws a down pillow across the stage.
Wow.
Everything expands so quickly. He ends up hiring about 500 people, including most of the gang from his bar he used to own called Schmitty's. And
This is like a story. You know when Joe Biden starts talking about shit that happened in the
corn
50s?
pop and
Yes,
shit.
it's corn pop.
Yeah, this is corn
I
pop.
hired everybody from the gang down at Smitty's. Oh, you did?
The janitor, the bus boys at Schmitty's.
And it was Prince.
That was Prince too.
And that young man with a switchblade was Prince. What?
That girl ended up being Madonna.
They were all there in my pool. I was the lifeguard. We had sunflower seed spitting contests.
His ghostwriter must have just been like, can you get this down to some bullet points, and I'll try to.
I was the one who could blow the biggest bubbles.
Well, I mean, there's a good chance all he did was just buy stories from other crackheads for his crack. He gave them a crack rock.
That's a good
They
deal.
gave him a chapter.
Hey,
Much like any young man would do back in the early days of stand-up, he would buy crackhead stories from all the up-and-coming crackheads.
That's how everybody. That's the dirty little secret. Everybody makes it with crackhead stories.
so his sister, unbelievably, meets the woman that she had seen in the vision, and her name is Kendra. Meanwhile, Mike is at the Riverside Casino, and he meets a lady named Dallas Yoakum.
Oh, come on!
And asks...
He never takes a night off.
Is he considered he's so intolerable that everyone's giving him a fake name?
Oh, buddy, this shit with
I'm
Dallas,
Prince, so
this shit with Dallas Yoakum is unbelievable. He asks her to marry him after dating for a month. The sister hates Dallas Yoakum, like hates her because she's not the God vision that she's had. They have a $100,000 wedding. They sign a prenup. He makes that very clear. So
boy.
it's like you might have had some reservations. The marriage lasts 20 days.
Oh.
And
Oh boy!
And-
Oh, I would have loved to have seen those 20 days.
and at the court proceedings, she tells him, Mike, I'm not in love with you. You are boring.
Oh no!
Which
if
It's
anything,
not true.
not true.
He is not boring.
Goes against all of these chapters that we've just read. It's like he's a lot of things.
maybe that's the only thing that's true, and the rest of this is all made up bullshit because he's a pillow guy who has a very unextraordinary life, and someone called him boring, and he's like, "Oh yeah, well have you met Prince and Lady Di? I don't think so, because I was a crackhead that flew a plane into the fucking I don't know."
This I looked for this so fucking hard. I could not find any remnant of what the hell he was talking about, but he says that one night he's watching TV and he sees another guy with a mustache selling fake MyPillows on his TV.
What?
Like he's flipping channels in Minnesota and some rip-off MyPillow company has a fake mic on TV being like, check out my pillows. And he's like, that doesn't sound like me.
Did he just see his own commercial?
I don't know.
Like a dog looking in the mirror. Tries to attack the TV.
The company is called Telebrands and he sues them. So MyPillow, like the infomercial's starting to die down. He has to go count cards out in Vegas, which is what he's been doing this whole time to make money to cover his payroll. And then on the way to the casino, God speaks to him directly and says, go to church tomorrow, Mike. You are done with gambling. Don't worry about counting cards to cover your company's expenses. You must meet Kendra. She is the one. Through her, you will be closer to me.
This reads a lot like the Book of Mormon. Like when you start reading the Book of Mormon, like this is why you plot out a story before you start telling it.
Right.
Because it starts to where you're like, oh. And then
So he turns around and never
becomes this crazy like Greek mythological tale until you get to the actual thing that happened where quote God intervened. Where someone had the mental break and
he turns around, never gambles again. Next thing you know, he's deer hunting with his friend Tom Shrimp.
oh, come on, Tom Shrimp. What are we doing? Mike.
Tom Clapp, Tom Shrimp, Rosen.
they're all named Tom.
Oh, I got all the best Toms.
There's Tom
Clapp, Shrimp, Green.
Oh, boy.
All the best Toms are here.
He's just like looking at shit in the room. There was Tommy doorknob. There was Tommy toilet. There was I remember Tom shoes.
Tom Shrimp.
Tom shoes. I'm sure he's got a Tom shoe.
Tom Shrimp does not get along with Tom Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Tom wallet. Tom house keys.
Jeez. This guy.
Tom mustache.
He's just looking at himself. Tom hair. Top forehead.
How many copies of this book have been made?
Dude, well, the thing with this book, I remember when he had his cyber symposium back in August of last year. They just said there were fucking like boxes of these goddamn things. They couldn't give them away because so many people and like not. You know, it was basically the entire attendance of the cyber symposium was nothing but like right-wing psychopaths and then like journalists making fun of it. Mm-hmm. That was everyone. Even the right-wing psychopaths weren't taking copies of this. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here like, I kind of want to read it. And shout out to Hobo Eddie because one of our listeners sent this to me for my birthday. But he's deer hunting with Tom Shrimp. And that is...
Well, it's not a family name. That's not even what you call Tom Shrimp.
You can't keep repeating that point. The artist formerly known as Tom Shrimp.
I mean, we are just picturing a shrimp with a gun, right?
Yeah. Or like a shrimp disguised as a person.
Yeah.
My name's Tom Shrimp.
You've heard of a pistol shrimp. This is a rifle shrimp. 30-06 shrimp. So he's deer hunting with said individual, and that's when his ads hit Fox News, and all of a sudden his phone starts going crazy, and he decides to buy $2 million worth of ads on Fox. Wow. And then he also magically shoots a deer immediately. He's like, and then I killed a massive deer.
I did a backflip and killed a deer.
yeah, with my bare hands.
I did a backflip back into my Camaro, and then I married.
I snapped its neck with my thighs.
I married Claudia Schiffer, and then I went straight home.
Now, speaking of celebs, now is the time when Stephen Baldwin enters the picture. Because he is
Biodome.
Oh my
fame.
god!
Yeah, so he's so MyPillow guy because he always, you see him on this picture. He always prominently wears that cross on the outside. So Stephen Baldwin sees some money and is like, I'm going to attach myself to this lunatic. And Stephen Baldwin gets Mike Lindell the Federal Enforcement and Homeland Security Foundation Patriot Award for his work with the quote-unquote Lindell Foundation. So one of the things about this book, and this came out in 2019, so one of the things he keeps hitting is his important charity work. So the Lindell Foundation, turns out, is his dark money operation. So that's how he donates to all these like Republican ghouls, is through this fake thing that's supposed to be helping drug addicts. So that's cool. Yeah, Lindell told the Young Turks in 2021 that he hasn't done anything with the Lindell Foundation in 4 years, and the URL redirects to his personal site, but tax records shows that it's still taking in money and distributing it to evangelical causes as of 2019. And the Lindell Foundation, their filing says that they donated towards education through a organization called Liberia to Liberty, and the IRS has never heard of this, and it's not anywhere in Virginia state records either. So yeah, so he's doing good stuff through this.
This is kind of
foundation.
surprising. He's been a pretty straight shooter up to this point.
Well, what it is
I don't.
He's a giant. He's a what they call in casino. He's a whale. He's a fucking guy with way too much money that he knows what to do with, and he's easily influenced. So you've got all of these cretins like Stephen Baldwin, and he's the least problematic fucking person that Mike interacts with from here on out, that just attach onto him because he's full of money and he's an idiot, you know? At this point, he has another vision. He has a dream of him.
He does not get a night off.
I'm telling you, dude, God
really
won't
doesn't.
leave him the fuck alone.
There's not one chapter of like, I really enjoyed watching Friends. Went to sleep around a reasonable hour.
He has a dream.
I was awoken by a horrifying vision.
Yeah.
Me and Rosie Perez.
He has a dream of him and Donald Trump in a room together. And he said,
what year is this?
This is 2015, baby. And he says, why would a presidential candidate want to meet with an ex-crackhead like me? I'm like, I can think of a few reasons. So he goes with Christian Talk Radio Network, Salem Radio, on a tour of Israel with Kendra and Stephen Baldwin. And he claims that he was apolitical before the flight to Israel. But on the flight, that's when he gets red-pilled. Stephen Baldwin and his wife, who's like a mega conservative, they talk him into it. He goes to the National Prayer Breakfast, and that's where he meets Dr. Ben Carson.
Buddy.
So he's just like, the rest of the book is just name dropping. That's the best part of it, is like, and we're, there's like, whatever, as I'm reading this, there's just all these names popping out where you're like, oh god, that's not going to do good for Mike.
It's just like names dropped in this book, and Epstein flight log just start becoming one document.
He goes to the 2016 Republican National Convention, and that's when somebody tells him that Donald Trump loves the MyPillow commercials.
Of course.
They say that Trump sits up at night, and as soon as Fox News goes to commercial, he goes, I bet it's going to be the pillow guy. I bet it's going to be the pillow guy. Like, he gets really excited for the commercials. He gets invited to Trump Tower. Meanwhile, his wife wants to go to attend the church of a Messianic rabbi named Jonathan Kahn. Yeah, so this is like a... so you take the Jews for Jesus idea and then just ramp it up to evangelical, basically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
it's always good to have the last name Kahn.
Yeah, I know. That's right in the book.
Tom Kahn.
Tom Kahn.
John Kahn. No, his name is John Kahn.
John Kahn.
John Kahn.
I had just seen the Terminator.
In his book, The Paradigm, the ancient blueprint that holds the mystery of our times, which, boy, what a great title. He compares Trump to King Jehu, who led ancient Israel away from idolatry. He says that abortion, gay rights, and the decline in the public role of religion were all signals for Khan that the United States was taking the wrong path. He also meets Rudy Giuliani at a party in the Hamptons.
Oh, no,
and
dude.
Rudy Giuliani repeats his commercial to him. He's just like, down pillows are ruining America. And he like kind of like is like, look at you, you freak on TV. So...
suck to have to cater these parties for all these like Illuminati child molesters.
Oh, you get to spit in all the food though. I mean, that's
so much cocaine to clean up. Versus cocaine dusted everything.
He meets Trump at Trump Tower. They talk about addiction, even though he was specifically told not to talk about that because Trump's brother drank himself to death. They're like, hey, maybe don't. And he was just like, Mr. President, I was a crackhead. It was fucking awesome, but now I'm talking about God.
It seems to be his opening line everywhere he goes.
Yeah, crackhead.
He decides, despite the fact everyone at MyPillow being like, for the love of God, don't do this. He decides to publicly support Donald Trump, which, he took that pill, man. Everyone was like, hey, maybe sit this one out. Like, you believe what you want, donate to who you want. But
I've been following politics for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, I know, literally. Ever since Stephen Baldwin, star of Biodome, told me this was a good idea.
Co-star.
Yeah. He goes to Vegas for the Pacquiao-Vargas fight. Him and Stephen Baldwin pray with Manny Pacquiao, and Manny wins by decision. He can't find a flight home for the Trump rally, so he throws up what he calls a prayer flare. Which is where I guess you just like beg God to help you out. It's like, oh God, or it's a flare, help me out.
Foxhole prayer, I guess.
I suppose so.
Prayer flare.
Yeah, and he finds a flight, and he's going to go.
It could also be like stickers of crosses and stuff. Like,
like
buttons. Yeah,
you need at least 15 pieces of prayer flare. He gets a flight back to Minneapolis, and now he's about to go speak in front of this Trump rally, and he says the whole thing happened so fast I didn't have time to post about it on Facebook.
Whoa, that's fast.
Boy, you had a whole fucking flight from Vegas to Minneapolis. You didn't have a... Okay.
I know how long that flight is. That's long enough to post on Facebook.
Before the speech, he says he's nervous. A lady walks up to him and says, Mike, I'm Michelle Bachmann. You look like you need to pray. And I'm like, oh my God, a name I haven't thought about in fucking years. Oh my God.
Mike, I'm Mother Teresa. Hello, this is my friend, Tom Airplane.
This is Billy Peanuts. This is
Tom Peanuts. That's Tom Pilot up front.
This is James Pretzels. This is Andrea Ginger Ale.
Oh man,
this is David Vomit Bag. Okay,
Tom Collins, Tommy Lee Jones. I've met all the Toms.
And the media ignores his speech. He gives this amazing speech in front of all these people, and the media ignores his speech. And so that's when he decides the media sucks. He's like, they weren't talking about that. They were talking about, whatever bullshit about the campaign.
Who told him to write this book?
No one. No. Throughout the book, he keeps saying all of his crackhead friends are like, Mike, when are you going to write that book? Like, he makes references to the book in the book.
Oh, wow.
Like, the crackheads have been telling him for years he needs to write this down.
Right. Like,
this was years in the making.
He's like planting seeds to be like, I've always been meaning to write this book. He's just a boring guy who had a ton of money, who got used by conservative shitheads. And now he's like, I have to tell the legend because I'm a key figure in this movement now, apparently.
With 5 pages left in the book, he goes to the Philippines and meets with the dictator Rodrigo Duterte.
Oh, no.
to talk about addiction with Duterte. I'm like, oh yeah, the guy who executes drug dealers and users. Like, that's his thing. And he's like, hey, this guy who can be reasoned with. And then the last thing is he gets invited to participate in something called Restored Warrior Drop Zone, which is 5 days in the mountains with combat veterans. Which I'm like, why is the pillow guy in with the combat veterans? Like, what? But it's all about the J, man. It's all about the G's,
man.
And so the preacher at this retreat up in Lake Tahoe tells him, Mike, God's been chasing you this whole time. You just gotta let him catch you. So he finally accepts, having been mildly to extremely religious this whole time, finally accepts Jesus into his heart. And you're like,
at the end?
At the very end, and you're like, you were pretty Christian before this. He's just ultra Christian now. And then the last
if God was interrupting his hunting trips, you'd think, that would.
If God is speaking to you directly, it seems like we're cool. He would have told me that I need to go.
You get a vision every night.
Yeah, every single night he tells me some crazy shit. And the last thing, his dad is near death, and this is where that little like anti-vax kind of thing comes in. So his dad is near death. Like, he can't communicate. He's on his deathbed. And they beg him to take him off this one particular drug. And the doctor's like, we couldn't possibly take him off this drug. And then they take him off. And his dad dances out of the hospital with his walker above his head, and he lives still, as best I can tell. Fuck science.
Wow,
Fuck your
dude.
science.
Did he jump and click his heels?
That is how Mike makes it seem. He's like, he's as spry as ever. My old man is doing great. I didn't look up to see if he's dead yet because this was 2019. But in last section, he's giving a speech at Liberty University. Everything's going groovy, and at the last words of the book, to be continued.
Oh, of course.
So he's gonna have a lot of fucking free time when the people at his company drum him out for being insane.
What my thought is that this whole book is that receipt story. This whole book is he has committed lots of crimes, and these are all alibis. You can ask Tom Shrimp. I was Duterte.
Yeah.
I was with him.
I was with the dictator of the Philippines at the time. I couldn't have done these financial crimes, FBI.
I know. I think it's just a list of places he wasn't. No one would suspect he's at the center of all this shit.
Oh, God. So that is the conclusion of What Are the Odds from Crack Addict to CEO by MyPillow guy Mike Lindell. As I said, I want this book out of my house. So what we're going to do, tweet at us at The Goods Pod. We'll run this for like a week. Whoever has the best alternate title to this book, I'm going to mail you this book, and I'm going to mail you a Goods from the Woods t-shirt and a bunch of stickers and shit. So go at it at The Goods Pod on Twitter. Tweet at us if you have a better title than What Are the Odds for this psychopath's fucking book. And if there's any other weird...
All of my Toms.
Tom Shrimp.
Tom Shrimp is too good.
So tweet at us and we'll send you this goddamn book, and you can do whatever you want to with it. I don't give a
Hell
shit.
yeah.
But thanks again to Hobo Eddie for sending it to me. It was a joy to read. And if you have any weird books you want me to read, hey, mail them to me. I'll do this again. I
Hell
swear
yeah.
to God.
How long did it take you to read that thing?
I read it pretty quickly. I just I broke it up into 4 sections to cover on the show, just because covering the whole thing would be ridiculous. But
that was one section?
That was the last 11 chapters.
Oh my God.
Dude, he meets the dictator of the Philippines with like 2 pages to go, and you're like, but that what? What the fuck? This guy can't just make a cameo here.
I gotta catch up on the first part.
Well, like I said, it's free. No one has to buy shit. You can just download the audiobook and listen to him just go, Tom Shrimp was a maniac. He was the best deer shooter ever.
That's when I invented the moonwalk dance at Schmitty's. Also, I have 6-pack abs. And I'm a dead-eye shot.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but also millions of you out there. Well, my employees and I want to personally thank each and every one of you for all your support, and we want to pass the savings directly on to you. So go to MyPillow.com now and use the promo code on your screen, or call the 1-800 number below to receive this exclusive offer. Thank you and God bless.